You're gonna see some serious shit.
It is the future. The year 2015. Okay, it's not as cool as we were promised, but it's not that different really. Instead of Jaws 19, we get Terminator Jenny CCs. It's the same thing really. We need to make a future for ourselves. A future where film lovers make film podcasts about why they love film. Where we stay positive no matter what the next batshit crazy Fantastic Four reboot rumor is. Come on guys, Star Wars and Mad Max are coming back. Brad Bird's got another movie out, Pixar have too. Stick with us folks and you'll always see the bright side of movies. Don't mind the title, it's just ironic. Welcome to Movie Moan 2015! Hello everybody, and very Merry Christmas to you. It's a sort of weird feeling right now because this is, I guess, the last Movie Moan. And yes, I know that I've said that before, but remember what the deal was, folks, and I've kept true to it in some way. I said that we'd do Movie Moan 2015, aptly named because it meant when we'd done this year's worth of shows, that really would be it. And as you probably noticed, that we haven't even been able to do a full year's worth of shows because real life has really gotten in the way. And without going into details, all I can say, certainly for myself, is that my career's gone in a very exciting and international travelling businessman sort of way. And Jamie's got a happy ending. Even though his life's only just beginning, Jamie has got himself a happy ending. We'll talk more about that later. Don't worry about that.
All fair.
If the show is ending, don't worry about us. Don't worry about you, Uncle Phil and Jamie.
Phil became an assassin. I don't want to give that away.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yes. We suffered through the worst possible Bond film Daniel Craig could have made, but we're still all right. If we can.
For now. We don't know the fifth
I
one.
suppose.
We don't know what the fifth one's going to be. It could get worse. I think he will do one more.
All I'm going to say, folks, I don't usually do the I told you so, but didn't I call it? Didn't Uncle Phil call it? I said the fourth film, it never fails. My Bond mathematics never fail. Spectre fucking blew.
The first hour was really
good. No, it was okay. It was good. It was all right.
And I kept imitating Christoph Waltz, and I still do even now to my girlfriend. I go, cool. It's just she just laughed when I did that.
Stupid.
Wow, I've never seen Spencer get that much of a reaction.
What about the other bit? Touch it. You can touch it if you want. Sorry, I can't hear you, James. It's just, and the thing that bothered me the most in the torture scene, obviously it's supposed to be a really, really intense scene where you fear for James Bond's life, and all I can focus on is the fact that Blofeld is not wearing socks. I'm like, put some socks
on.
on.
You did say that.
Yeah,
you did say that. Yeah, you were like, that looks unhygienic. I was like, Phil, people walk around without socks on their shoes. I do. You know?
Yeah. And of course my favourite line, of course, Mr. White! Oh, for fuck's sake. It's the stupidest
That's the cardinal sin of that movie. Everyone bitches about the whole, like, Austin Powers Goldmember plot, which it totally is, but, like, it's the fact that you made Mr. White you retconned that character, like, for no reason. It's like, did you even watch the movie? And, Matt, our friend over here brought up the most amazing point, which is that they basically all but said, like, we hate Quantum of Solace.
No. It's a complete contempt for the audience, who might have liked it. I certainly did. Certainly better than that. But anyway,
here's the thing,
Spectre was better than Quantum of Solace. These people are crazy. I'm just saying.
Oh, fine. Anyway, maybe we'll debate that later if we've got
here's the
time.
thing, people like Spectre. People like Spectre, though, and I, like, that doesn't bother me to say that even though I hated it, but it's like, it held really well in America. So it's like, people liked it. They responded to it well. So, whatever.
Whatever indeed. But what it simply was, folks, is that if we've had a movie year like that, where that kind of movie comes out, and you know how close we are to Bond and it lets us down, but we've still had a great year. We really, really have. Because movies aren't everything. They're just, like, a lot to us still. But anyway, let's move on from that. That's yesterday's news. Let's talk about the movie that we all want to talk about. I certainly want to talk about it. And maybe, just maybe, if you're good, we'll get some of that trailer stuff off our mess as well, because it's the big Christmas show. And who the heck knows if we're going to come back and do anything else, but that's not really important right now. What's important is that we said, before we said adieu, that we had to talk about the grand return of Star Wars. And Star Wars The Force Awakens is here. We've all seen it. I don't know how many times people have seen it. I've seen it twice, luckily. And that's really, really helped for me to confirm what I think of it, which I'll tell you in just a moment. Before I do, the family's all here. I'm so, so happy to be spending a Movie Moan Christmas with our friends. First up, the man, the myth, the beard, Mr. Spencer Perry. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Phil.
I've missed you, sir.
I have too, man. I really missed this.
Yeah.
Spencer's
been
places.
Can I just point out that in the last episode when we took all the darts and threw them at the dartboard, I hit a fucking bullseye.
You did. What one was it? Tell them.
That would be when it was like, what, maybe 3 or 4 weeks after we did the episode, Marvel announced, they're like, hey, clear your calendars, July 2018, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
It's amazing. That was, I would say, quite fitting. Of all the bullseyes you hit, that's been the biggest one. I didn't see it coming at all. I was like, well, yeah, Ant-Man was great, but clearly the plan is we'll put him in other people's movies. Didn't think for a second that they were actually going to do that. Not in Phase 3 anyway. It was like, if there's one thing Phase 3 doesn't need, it's another movie. But there it is. And I'm absolutely convinced as well, even though they haven't admitted it, that you're right, that Inhumans is not going to be in Phase 3. If indeed it gets made at all at this point. It's not happening. But it's interesting. It's certainly interesting. The only thing that I can say for Spencer's is the next time you are going to do a set visit in this country, you've got to give me some notice if you can, dude. Because you and me meeting is long overdue.
Yeah, and I was in there twice in the past 2 months, so
can you say publicly what they were?
I can say one of them. I can say it. The first one I did was Assassin's Creed. I can't say what the second one was.
Okay.
Oh.
I know what they are.
Assassin's Creed 2.
So popular are they? They're going to sulky it and just do 2 at once.
It's a lovely little segue, actually, because, of course, right at the start of the year, one of our little think pieces on the podcast was about the Assassin's Creed movie, and what a horrible train wreck it's going to be that we can't stop. Well, maybe, I don't know. If Pedro's still in it, then who the heck knows. But anyway, that was me and Mr. Matt Thompson. Hello, sir.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk about Alvin and the Chipmunks, the road trip.
Yes, me too. Me too. You haven't changed.
I've got notes here. My review is going to run about 90 minutes. I hope that's okay for the podcast.
That's fine with me. I love hearing you talk, sir.
Great.
On that point, though, I mean, Spencer's obviously can't tell us anything, but do you have any hope for Assassin's Creed, or you're just like, man, why are you making this?
I know the names are different from the script I read, so that's good.
Hey!
Yay! Hopefully, Michael Fassbender is no longer playing a death row inmate who's horrible and I want to die. So, we'll see. It's probably going to be a movie. I'm relatively certain it will be in color, so I'm going to be hopeful.
Awesome. Fantastic. And also with us, I've run out of adjectives. I can't describe this man. How can you describe someone who will sit with you for 100 minutes and do an audio commentary with you for movies like The Phantom and Steel without any trace of fucking bullshit hipster irony, because he loves those movies and so do I. I don't know a single other person on the planet who I could do that with. The irreplaceable Mr. Randall Maynard.
Hello, Phil. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. How are you? How the hell are you, sir?
Too good.
Me too. I'm glad you've had a good year too, I believe.
It's been a crazy year.
Crazy.
It's been crazy, but it's all
It's
good.
all good. All right, folks. So
Yeah.
let's get straight to it. The guys here have decided, I'm not quite sure why, that they want me to go first on Star Wars The Force Awakens. So fair enough. The first thing I want to say about this movie is that I think it is incredibly racist. The good thing
Yes.
that people in my country, in Great Britain, are not the overly sensitive pussies that every other country seems to be. I don't suppose it's occurred to anybody else, but it clicked to me the second I walked out of the theatre the second time that, hey, every single member of the First Order is absolutely irredeemably evil and British. Except for the one stormtrooper who grew a conscience, who's American. And did you also notice that every single member of the Resistance is red, white, and blue, ham and cheese sandwiches American, except for C-3PO, who, unbelievable as it sounds, is even more annoying and gay than he's ever been, and I'm so glad his was just a cameo. So, 0 stars. Spencer?
You don't like C-3PO?
I'm just kidding. Okay, well, let me do the real version, but I don't suppose that occurred to anybody else. But because I only say that because
There was Phil, that's not really fair. There was a Scottish guy too.
But I only mention that because I'm sure anyone who's been revisiting Star Wars, and by Star Wars I mean the first one, henceforth we will call it that for the rest of this discussion, if it doesn't get too confusing. In Star Wars, yeah, a lot of the Imperials were British, but there were a few Americans in there. Like the two guys on the blockade runner, for example, they were Americans. It's just all the guys around the big chair, they were British. But the guy who gets choked out, whose name I can remember, don't try and frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, he was American. So I just thought that, given that they get so much else dead on in terms of references to the original, they could have thrown in a few Americans. I suppose if Benicio del Toro's going to show up.
That was Finn.
Well,
Finn was your Imperial.
yeah, I guess. But like I say,
Yeah.
he's the only one. He might as well have said, when Poe Dameron says, "Why are you helping me?" he might as well have said, "'Cause I'm American." He might as well have.
Well, Phil, I mean, you talk about Del Toro, but like he might speak in one of his weird gibberish voices. Like we might understand him even less in episode 8.
You might be right. I've got some theories about who he might be playing, but
I think he's playing his character from The Usual Suspects.
I have a different theory, but I'll tell you about it. But anyway,
Very.
here's what I want to say about Star Wars The Force Awakens. First of all, to give you the short version, I absolutely loved the film, with one caveat, which I'll get to later. But I really don't think it should be taken for granted what a really, really fantastic job they did with all that really matters in a movie like this when you come right down to it. The characters. I mean, let's face it, this is a movie which could easily not have to put in any effort. They're throwing in all the original cast, people who we automatically love and adore, and whether it's nostalgia or genuinely that we just love seeing these characters again, we automatically fall in love with them, and that's all there is to it. But this is a movie which actually says, hold on, we do have a whole slew of brand new characters, and if you'll give us the time, we'd like to make you fall in love with them. And I did. That's what shocked me. I expected that I was going to like them, because J.J. Abrams generally tends to cast his movies very well. I thought that I would like the new characters, but I didn't expect to fall head over heels in love with them. When I read the print reviews, I thought, okay, that's just hyperbole, that's just hyperbole. I'm not going to fall in love with Daisy Ridley. Oh, Daisy, I would very much like to have a coffee. Well, you can have a coffee, I don't drink it, I'll have a milkshake, but a harmless beverage, Daisy. That's what I would very much like. I fucking fell in love with this girl. Absolutely fell in love. I thought it was interesting having two male leads in Poe Dameron and in Finn, but I think, to me, what it is that most of us would like to be Poe Dameron, but most of us probably are Finn, because Finn is an idiot. But he's the most lovable, wonderful idiot that I can remember in recent memory, and I certainly had a lot in common with him. I certainly liked him very much. This is a controversial opinion, I think, because I know not everyone's wondering about this performance and whether it went too far, but I fucking love Domhnall Gleeson in this movie. One of the print reviews I read best described him as a sneer given human form. And I thought that perfectly describes General Hux. I fully expect the mustache to be there in the next one. I just love that guy so much. And it's true, everything that they've said, that they actually have created a really, really interesting character in Kylo Ren. I was not expecting at all. And it's one of the things with the reviews that got me really excited to see the movie, because I thought, okay, this is not going to work. I mean, it's a Vader clone, but it's Adam Driver. I still remember when the Entertainment Weekly photos came out, which first showed him unmasked, and I'll never forget my friend's reaction when he saw the picture and he said, "Oh my god, it's some guy!" And I thought, well, yeah, so this ain't gonna work, but it does. It doesn't matter that he's masked or not. It's not so much about the mystery, it's about, because they blow the mystery extremely early. Max von Sydow says in the first scene who he really is, and we can put together the rest of the pieces. I was just absolutely fascinated by his character, and we'll talk more about that later. I'm also extremely, more than any other character, I am absolutely fascinated by Supreme Leader Snoopy. I can't wait to find out more about that guy. Absolutely. We'll talk more about that too. What really I'm running out of breath here, but what I really admire about the film is that there's all these little touches that make the original trilogy work for me. And one of them is the fact that the scale of those films is not quite as big as maybe you'd think. And certainly in Jedi and the space battle, that's as big as things get. But apart from that, it really is pretty simple. I mean, if they're in a gun battle with guys, it's like 5 to 10 guys. If there's a spaceship battle, it's, 5 TIE fighters or whatever it is. Today, obviously, you can literally throw in armies of hundreds and thousands, and you can make it as huge and epic and crazy as you want to. But I really appreciated the fact that JJ knows to keep it small, keep it intimate, because it doesn't make it any less exciting. In fact, I think it makes it even more. I was hoping it was the case, and it turned out to be true, that in that Millennium Falcon TIE Fighter battle on Jakku, which I will go and see this film another 10 times just to see. I thought that sequence was so well done. That there are only 2 TIE Fighters, and that in itself is a Herculean struggle. These bad guys, these pilots, they're competent. They actually fly really well. Okay, they can't shoot for shit, but they fly really well. And Finn doesn't know what he's doing, and Rey barely knows what she's doing, and it's a huge struggle. They're in the Millennium Falcon, but it's such a struggle just to take out 2 TIE fighters, and it means there's escalation to go in the future movies. I love the fact that in the final lightsaber battle in the snow, it's not about fancy moves or lightning-fast choreography. I couldn't remember any of the choreography in that fight. It's not about that. It's so much more exciting to see characters who don't know what they're doing, who aren't skilled whatsoever. There's definitely untapped potential there, and they're going to get better. But it's about raw feelings and emotion rather than control characters. You feel the stakes, and by that point you just love Finn and Rey so much that you don't want them to get hurt. And people do get hurt in this movie. People really, really do get clobbered, and I love that. What else can I say about it? Well, I did have a problem with the movie, and I said in the tweet that my problem with the movie was basically it was a Star Killer sized butt. That was a clue. My problem with the movie, my only main problem, yes, there's flaws here and there, tiny little niggles, but my only real problem with the movie is the addition of the Star Killer itself. It is completely superfluous, and as far as I can see, based on the way that it's dealt with, based on the way that it's written, and based on the way that all the sequences with it are shot, it's the least interesting thing in the movie to JJ as well. He doesn't care about it so much. It's mentioned the first time by General Hux to Supreme Leader Snickers that we've got the weapon's ready. And I'm like, right, okay. And then they blow up 5 planets loyal to the Republic, but they don't care about explaining what the hell that means.
It means nothing because we have no emotional connection to it, and like in the planet that does get killed that we see, we don't even know who the fuck they are.
Well, we don't know what political landscape of the galaxy is.
I think it was Coruscant, but I couldn't really tell.
I wasn't sure. But
they haven't really made that one clear. I've tried to look it up.
Is the First Order in charge, or is the Republic in charge? They never mention it. And I wouldn't have cared, except for the fact that they bring in this angle. When it gets blown up at the end, I wasn't fist pumping in the air. I was just going, that was incredibly easy. And of course, the biggest problem they have is the same problem that Return of the Jedi had. It's like, well, we can't really up the stakes more. We're just going to have to do another one. And I certainly feel that way. I certainly feel like in Episode 9, if they want to introduce some new Face of the Galaxy weapon of death, what more can they do except another Star Killer? Which is boring. One for Luke Skywalker is all you need. And if you think about it, the third act at Star Killer Base, you can have the exact same third act without having the Star Killer thing whatsoever. Finn is going in there to get Rey. Han is going in there to get his son back. Kylo wants both of them to come for him, because obviously he wants to kill his dad anyway. And you can bring in BB-8 as well, just so they can get their hands on the map. The map to Skywalker, that is your plot, and that is all you need. You really, really don't need anything else. And I think that's the only flaw with the film. We all went into it expecting that it was going to be some remake or retread of Star Wars, but in actual fact, of course, as everyone now has pointed out, it's actually a greatest hits package of the entire original trilogy. There's elements of everything. It definitely has the plot of Star Wars, but it's got the revelations and twists of Empire, and it's got the dynamic, the family relationships and the personal dynamics and the drama of Jedi when it comes to the actual fights. So it's got all those elements, and I'm not going to complain about that. That was the most exciting thing to me of having, finally, new directors come in to Star Wars, that each one of them will have been, I presume, impacted by the original series of films in some way. They will all have meant something very, very personal to each one of those directors, and now they finally get the chance to repay that love. So, and you see it all over The Force Awakens. It's just beautiful. It really, really is. I'm sure we have more to say, but I've talked everybody's ear off, so that's what I'm feeling right now. I give it a solid 8.5. Apart from the racism, I wasn't bothered by anything in it. And more than anything, I am so So excited. Yes, I'm sure I'll get burned out very, very quickly, especially if the films start to get a little lame. But I'm really, really excited for episode 8. I see so clearly in my head how it's going to play now. I've got a real hunch about where episode 8 is going to go. Talk about that later. Anyway, Spencer, over to you.
Well, I want to say that the first time I saw the movie, there were big issues with the presentation. So about like an hour into the film, it cut off. And we were all like, what the fuck's going on? And it stayed off for about 45 minutes. And then they finally got it back on, and then it played for another 20 minutes, and then it cut off again. And then it played again, and then with 30 seconds, 90 seconds left in the movie, it cut off a third time. And since, you know, with these early screenings, they only give you so much of a window, since they had restarted, since the film had cut off that last time past the window, they couldn't start the film back over again for us, so we didn't get to see the ending the first time I saw the movie. Luckily, that night, they screened it again for us without interruptions, and I got to see the ending of the movie. But what's important is that movie gave us 2 opportunities to not care anymore and to leave, but we didn't want to. We wanted to keep watching. We wanted to find out what happens next. We were sucked in that regard, which is a fantastic sign. Because with any sort of movie like this, you know, the example I kept giving to friends every time I told them about it was, imagine the first time you saw Fury Road, if in the middle of the movie you had to stop watching it and not watch it for an hour. It would totally take you out of it. It would remove you from the energy of the film. And that's important for these big spectacle blockbuster movies. And, you know, as much as I like to bitch about Star Wars on Twitter because of, you know, what I do for work and having to write about it so many times a day, I still liked the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's solid in that regard. And I have to agree, like, Kylo Ren to me is probably the highlight besides BB-8, because BB-8 is just the fucking best. Every time he's on screen, you're smiling, and then he has the best gags in the movie, from the little lighter thumbs up to when he's just shifting, looking between Finn and Rey on the Falcon, not knowing who he can believe and who he can trust. And it's like, it's a fucking beach ball, but like, you see all these emotions in it. And Kylo Ren is just fucking great. Like, you know, I'd seen Adam Driver on Girls and stuff before, but I really didn't know what to expect from him in a giant blockbuster Star Wars movie, but he really fucking crushed it. But my problem with the movie is that it suffers from the same sort of storytelling problems that all of J.J. Abrams' movies suffer from, which is that, like, things happen and a character will ask, well, why did that happen? And then someone will say, well, we don't have time to talk about this right now. Or we'll explain it later. It doesn't matter. And it's like, no, but it does matter. It matters to the audience. And it clearly matters to the characters. If it matters to the characters, then it matters to us. But they either don't know the answer to the question, so they're just going to let the question linger, or they're, you know, okay, of course, this is the first chapter of a new trilogy, so they have time to explain these questions, but that's not how, like, singular filmmaking storytelling works. Like, you're not allowed to do that sort of thing. I mean, clearly you are, because the movie made fucking all the money in the world this year and no one cared, but that's my problem, is that, you know, at the very beginning it's like, Poe Dameron is going to go hang out with this old ally, and you're like, oh man, who's this old ally? And then he fucking dies before they can even tell you who he is, and then no one mentions him for the rest of the movie. And then Naz Kanata has Luke's lightsaber, and when they say, how did you get this? She literally says, that's a story for another day. Fuck you. And then, well,
that's
when
because
C-3PO
they shot that
in,
stuff and it didn't work.
Probably, yeah. And then when C-3PO
stuff,
appears, he has a great moment when he first appears on screen and completely takes over the frame from Carrie Fisher. And then he himself draws attention to the fact that he has a red arm. But then they don't say any reason why he would have it, what purpose it serves for him to have this red arm. It seems no different from his other arm. It seems weird to draw attention to that, and solely as a way of saying, like, look, it's different this time.
Can I ask a question about that, Spencer, just before the others come in. Just playing devil's advocate here, because I do agree with you, and it's really systemic of something that Star Wars was able to do so well that everyone else that copied it, whether it was a movie in the late 70s, like Battle Beyond the Stars, or 80s movies, or basically anything that's followed in the wake of the original film, has not been able to do as well, which is to create a mythology, create the idea of a billion other stories that have happened already, or are happening at the same time, or stories that have yet to be told, or answers that have yet to be given. And The Force Awakens definitely doesn't do it as well. But I would imagine probably someone like Larry Kasdan, if he was talking to you right now, might say, what is the difference between Maz Kanata saying that's a story for another time, and Yoda in Empire saying, no, there is another? What's the difference between the two?
I feel like the difference in that is that there is mystery in the, like, who is he talking about? Like, you know, there is another. It could be anyone. However, when we know what happened to the lightsaber at the end of Empire Strikes Back. It tumbled down into the bottom of Cloud City, and then somehow it ended up with her. Like, you're right. All the films in the franchise do this. They bring up these things that, like, they're going to explain later, or that they don't have the answer to, and that they're going to eventually write. But to me, that moment was so classic Abrams, like, I don't know, let the next guy handle it, that it really took me out of the moment.
I just don't want...
And I feel like that's and with Yoda in that moment, like, that's the last we see of him in the movie. So it kind of gives you that bridge to Jedi when he's going to come back. Not that he even fucking brings it up when he gets there in Return of the Jedi, but it's a proper cliffhanger. Whereas in that beat in Force Awakens, it comes in the middle of an action scene, so emotionally you're not prepared for something like that to be going on. Like, as soon as it happens, you're forgetting about it because stormtroopers and TIE fighters and X-Wings and Kylo Ren.
Does it really?
Yeah,
I mean,
to expand,
if you think about
on that too, like the way that what you're describing here and why the Yoda answer is great and why these answers come up short are because it's an answer. It's not an evasive comment from a writer. It's the character answering the question, except that there is motivation, there is underlying motivation for the character to keep secrets in order to not distract this guy from his mission. And at the same time, he is giving a definitive answer. There is another, but there's no reason for the character to question that at this point so strongly, especially if a character is about to die or something else is going on. So it's like they give these mysterious answers that just give the audience, like, it's just this perfect balance. That's kind of the unique quality of the original trilogy. It's this perfect balance of mystery, intrigue, but also story advancement, not just stopping dead to go, don't worry about that, we'll talk about that later, blah 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 blah, because that's all the mystery box or whatever stuff that, you know, I mean, that's his own style, but it's very different from the original series.
But again, I would argue the movie is saying that. There is another is setting something up for the future. Good Question for Another Day is saying it doesn't matter. Luke Skywalker, his lightsaber fell down a shaft, landed somewhere found it, and eventually over the years it got to her. I don't see how that's important any more than, hey, 3PO has a different arm, and the movie makes a joke of it. These aren't important things in the same way that there is another is an important thing.
I don't think that anyone's saying that there's a right or wrong answer here. I just think that this is subjective stuff where you go like, that kind of worked on me. That kind of worked on me a little bit better than this did. Yeah. But, you know, it's not saying like, this is garbage, I hate everything. You know, all right, well,
right,
it felt a little less effective that way.
Because I've got to admit, I was starting to get pardon the pun, I was starting to get a bad feeling about this when I first had Rey. So better than that, aren't I? Never mind. When Rey first touches the lightsaber and then conveniently starts having all these, not even flashbacks. I mean, I don't really know what it is, but she's just teleporting from one convenient dream sequence to another. And I was starting to go, oh no, don't do it this way. This is not, because you're not going to answer any of these questions. And no, they don't, but it doesn't really matter to me. It didn't anyway, because what was very, very clear at the end is that just Rey is far more powerful as a Jedi than anybody else. The Force Awakens title refers to her. I get it. We'll deal with the rest later. That it didn't bother me so much, but Yeah, Randall's right. There is no.
The scene, the scene where she finds the lightsaber is like straight out of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like she's in like a bar and just wanders in, and she's like hallucinating and shit. I love that. I was like, I want to see Terry Gilliam direct Star Wars.
No, you don't.
Well, the problem
But
with
then,
that. Well, no, the problem with that scene is like we keep hearing about like how Jedis can see the future and they can see the past, and it's like it's better to like have the actors have like you see Luke's reaction in Empire, and we're seeing Mark Hamill give a performance where it's in his eyes, he's seeing it, and it's so much more captivating to imagine what that looks like, and we've never seen that visualized. And Phil, I kind of had
Yes, we have. We saw in the prequels, we saw Anakin's dream, and then the cave in Empire Strikes Back.
Count.
But the cave in Empire Strikes Back is absolutely a vision.
The prequels don't count.
Exactly.
Okay, well, ignoring the prequels, then Empire Strikes Back.
I forgot about that.
The Force Awakens doesn't ignore the prequels. There's an explicit reference to the prequels.
There's a couple.
They
mention the Clone
two-
Army, and she says Sith, so there's a prequel reference.
Yeah, it's a little twist of the knife for anybody who had to sit through the prequels.
Get over your childhood. No, but seriously, yeah, ignore the prequels.
You're imposing an argument I'm not making. I didn't say anything
No,
about
no,
my childhood.
I'm kidding.
Saying I just don't care for those films.
but yeah, just ignore the Anakin dream thing, the visual. But the cave in Empire, I think, this was taking that idea and using it this way, kind of to get that
My thing is
information
that,
across.
but we've never seen it through the point of view of the character, and maybe I should clarify.
Yeah,
we
and I thought that actually worked
But
quite well.
Matt is right, though. That actually has been done before, so I stand.
Not at all, no. But I get the point that Jamie's making. I didn't even think about it till he mentioned it, but yeah, I do love that moment in Empire where he just says, "I saw a city in the clouds. It is the future you see." And it's like, yeah, I totally prefer seeing it. No, they were in pain, but you don't get to see Han on the friggin' torture chair getting his balls ripped out or anything, or something like that. It's because that wouldn't work as well, at least in my head.
No, it wouldn't.
No. Apart from that, anyway, Randall, I do want to get the rest of your thoughts on the movie.
There's a classic sort of Lost thing. If anyone watched the show Lost, there's a classic Lost mystery in this movie that will never pay off, and it's the lightsaber. The fact that they go, "We'll explain that later." What the explanation is this: we found it. That's it.
That's
That's
good.
all there is
But
to it.
that's a good enough explanation for me. That didn't bother me whatsoever.
You understand what I'm saying, though? They're like,
absolutely.
We're gonna explain.
And let's not. I'm sorry. You're gonna hate me for saying it.
It's already.
You're gonna hate me for saying it, Randall. But don't put that on Abrams or a Lost mentality. The prequels did plenty of that. They had so many questions there that we thought were gonna be fully answered and never were. Like, I know people who were
Cypher Diaz,
the Virgin Birth.
Are insanity.
Yeah.
Pure insanity. Like, they make absolutely no sense moment to moment. They're just, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then R2-D2's a rocket ship, and then they're fucking, I don't know, everything is just, completely random. It's the worst example of storytelling in blockbusters I've seen outside of, like, Michael Bay movies, where it's just like, everything's just happening.
Michael Bay movies are Pirates of the Caribbean sequels.
It's just disorienting. I'm like, what's happening? Anyway, who gives a shit about the prequels? So,
So what do you think of this one?
This, by the way, so Phil, here's
Yes.
the thing. The British accent thing,
Yes.
okay? Here's the
Oh,
problem.
sorry, I'm going to do the rest of the podcast just like Hooks. Yes?
Here's the thing about the
Yes?
Brits. Transatlantic slave trade, Sherlock season 3. They've done a lot of damage. This is their comeuppance. They earned it. Sorry, guys. This is what you get. You get to be the bad guy at Star Wars.
No, I actually find it extremely refreshing. I mean, the point I was just making at the start is I'm so glad the movie isn't... First of all, I'm so proud of my country that we don't worry about that crap. And secondly, you never have to worry about being politically correct with our country. Make them as British as you like. I really don't care. I love it. I love the fact that we're all evil in that galaxy. That's fine. And it was a long time ago, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, what do you think of the rest of the movie, Randall?
It was a mixed bag. I haven't seen the originals in a long time. I loved them growing up, quite a bit, as like a teenager, and I still remember them very fondly. This one was a lot of fun, but I definitely felt like the one thing that was missing that I liked the most about the original series was how they wove together, like the plot progression and the setups and payoffs and interconnecting with the bigger mythology, like the hint drops of like, hey, there was Clone Wars, hey, there was this whole Jedi Knights and pilots for some army, and all this stuff, and they're like, whoa, there's all this background and all this cool stuff, but there's always this, there's always an imperative that's driving these moments forward, and every scene is pretty loaded, like they're setting things up and paying something off from the previous scene, and it's just flowing so nicely and moving, and I felt like that's kind of part of what, aside from like the epic visuals that we all remember, the feeling that there was so much going on at any given moment. And in this movie, I enjoyed myself, but I found that scene to scene, it felt like everything was sort of in a vacuum, and that I wasn't as engaged or as just fascinated or immersed as I was with the previous series. And there was certainly a lot going on, so I feel like it's not for lack of trying. It's not because they didn't have the material. It's just a different style of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And it was just in that way, it didn't quite work for me, but there was certainly a lot of fun character stuff. I kind of almost like it's hard to imagine, but I guess expanding on the Starkiller thing, I guess if they had lost that and kept it a little smaller, I would have liked to have seen that time spent more with the characters, just to kind of learn a little bit more about them. Because I like that a lot more than the sort of, similar plot that we've seen from the original trilogy, where it's like just some sort of new death machine. I don't know that was really necessary, especially this early on.
I think, it makes sense in a film like Star Wars, where obviously the Empire's been operating for 30, 40 years. If I understood it correctly, and obviously they're not clear about the timeline, the First Order has only just started appearing in the last year or so. They're new kids on the block, right? But they already have this unbelievable weapon of death, the likes of which even the Empire could never conceive. And it's just like, it's far more interesting to me if these guys are like, they're just getting started. Like, hopefully if we deal with them now, it won't be a problem. Let's just go to the base, blow them up, and that's it. And you don't have to worry about the super weapon. It frustrates the hell.
I also feel like dramatically there was like maybe a cool way that if they had landed on a planet to try to find a super weapon and then found out the entire planet was the weapon, that probably would have surprised me a lot more.
Yeah.
Just going like, hey, by the way, there's a giant super weapon planet. And the weird thing too is that at the end, when they cripple the thing, I was perfectly satisfied with like the gigantic explosion that they caused that made the weapon inoperable. But when the entire planet exploded, like the planet Krypton, I was actually kind of horrified. Like it was so weird to see that, because earlier in the movie, like just going by like the vocabulary of the movie or whatever you want to call it, like having planet destroying powers is equated with evil, and then at the end they're like, yeah, but we can destroy this one, who gives a shit? And I was like, wait a minute, there was like, were there creatures on that, or what was going on that planet? That
be nice to see like
the equivalent of like.
Be like to see like a Wampa.
Like nuking, and
be nice to see like a Wampa cuddling a child as it gets blown up.
A million Wampas cried out as if suddenly silenced. It was just really, it was kind of just sad to me. I don't know. It was weird. It was like if you saw a movie and they were like, yeah, at the end of Mad Max, if they just nuked Australia to get rid of all the bad guys, and you're like, well, they just had one compound on there. Are you sure that was the best thing to do?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like, we won. Who gives a shit? They're like, okay, yeah, yay, destroying planets, I guess. I thought that was bad.
I actually...
so yeah, there's a few...
On Randall's point there about the editing there, just so you know, because I wondered about it too, because it is very, it cuts to Finn, then we cut to Rey for a spell, then we cut back to Finn, then we cut to, General Sneer, then we cut to Rey, back to Finn for a bit, and it's like flip, and sometimes really, really quick.
General Sneer.
It's really quick 30-second scenes, and it was like, what I actually did, because I had some time waiting for my train, is I actually re-edited the film in my head, and I was like, what if you'd stuck with Finn completely until the TIE fighter crashes? Then only at that point do you finally go to Rey for her story for a bit, not even knowing if Finn and Poe are alive, and then a lot later on cut back, and his head bobs into frame like it did in the teaser trailer. And I tried that, and it would have worked for me, and I think it would have worked for everybody here, but I think what we really have to resign ourselves to, and I don't know if anybody agrees with me, and I know this was a big criticism in Alan's review, in Nordling's review at Ain't It Cool News, which he certainly had to pay the price for. A lot of sensitive babies attacking him for that one, but he makes a lot of valid points. One of which is that the original trilogy's very deliberate sense of pace. Those films had a slower pace to them. And it's not because those films specifically had that, it's because films at the time had a very deliberate, slower sense of pace, which just does not exist in modern cinema and hasn't for a very long time. In fact, I will argue that if we're talking about, remakes, sequels that take place a long time after to a film made in the 80s or whatever it might be, or throwbacks, the only film recently which came close to replicating that sense of pace was Superman Returns. And people hated it for that, because it was slower. But it actually, in my opinion, it was actually just trying to replicate a certain sense of pace which existed in the 70s and 80s, which doesn't anymore. And as I say, JJ directing this movie, it felt to me like he was on 10 cans of Mountain Dew. It was just, it was full force. And it is what it is, and I don't see many other people complaining about it, but I certainly feel that it's something that but it's a lost art, is what I'm saying. So there's no point grieving over that, because no one makes films like that anymore.
That's kind of the crazy thing, was watching the movie was like, I'm not expecting this from the movie, but having seen the originals, which were based off of like John Ford movies and like specifically like something like The Searchers or like Kurosawa movies or something like that, you have such different roots of inspiration, where with the new one it was riffing on itself, and I don't know how to feel about that. That was hard to deal with, because it was like, or hard to process, not deal with. It's a fucking space movie. I'm not let's not be over dramatic, but like it's a different type of movie now, where it's like the expectations are from within itself, not externally, not riffing on anything or doing anything that we've seen from other movies. Like other movies now that it would be referencing would be either like indie art films, or that were even more slow and meditative than we've ever seen any Star Wars movie before, or giant block like the Ninja Turtle. Like they're not gonna like riff on like Marvel movies and Ninja Turtles and stuff like those are all kind of taking cues from Star Wars and stuff as well. So this exists in a whole new kind of arena. I think for what it is, it's certainly doing a good job of balancing all that out. But it's complicated as a viewer, I think.
Mm-hmm. I felt like it's certainly referencing itself. It didn't feel like a response so much to the originals. It almost felt like it's Abrams trying to make sure that this wasn't the prequels, because those have very kind of not a slower pace, kind of a stagnant pace. And it felt like this was intentionally trying to go the opposite way with it to me.
I agree. I mean,
just more like boom, boom, boom.
Because it's like when what's those?
It's a self-conscious movie. Yeah.
When you watch those originals back now, whatever you think about Jedi, in a modern movie, you would never spend that amount of time in Jabba's palace. Was it like 40 minutes were there before we leave?
Yeah, and it's amazing.
It's
got
fun.
It's got Max Rebo.
It's a great movie where a lot of people walk in, sit down, talk, sit down some more, talk some more, sit, wait for things to happen.
I gotta back
Max, it's funny, out of all the weird shit from those original trilogy, the one thing my kid brain couldn't wrap, the one thing that I couldn't wrap my head around as a kid was Max Rebo, because he exists outside of reality. Like, he might as well have been an animated character from like Roger Rabbit, like superimposed into the world. I know this is not new ground here, but I cannot state enough how bizarre Max Rebo.
I had exactly the same reaction when I was a kid.
He's like from one of those like Mobius Jodorowsky collaborations. You see, he's very
yeah. Like it's like if you saw just an elf in real life, and you're just like, what is that? What am I looking at? What's going on here? That person's too small. It's It's an elf, right? It's
Let's be careful.
You know, like my brain just breaks, just snapped in half as a kid when I saw that. But of all the things, like not a wizard robot man with a laser sword and an old man that can shoot lightning out of his hands. All that was like, yeah, of course. But Max Rebo was the breaking point.
I just love. I'll still always love. I was not expecting you to say. I thought you were going to say something like the Rancor Keeper crying, like you couldn't deal with that as a kid.
My dad still laughs at that.
Oh no, that was just so
That
sad.
got to me.
That was
To
so
me
tragic.
too. I had a toy of him, and I always did that bit. I'd kill the Rancor, and if I did that in a game, I would have to have the Keeper just come in and have a good cry. Why does that toy exist?
The best
Yeah,
part
on the
of it-
toy, if you pressed it.
No, but the best part about that is the guy who comforts him.
Yeah.
On
on the toy, if you press his back, his eyes water. So it's all good.
You don't know the kind of good. Yeah, but you know what? Like we say this, like we don't know the kind of good times that he had with that Rancor.
Not at all. Anyway, Matt, I'm sorry, sir, we've kept you waiting, so please. And I know you were quite emotionally moved by the film, so I really want to know what you think of it.
Well, I feel like most of the points have been covered, but yeah, certainly the last 20 minutes of the film, starting with kind of the bridge scene, I found very emotionally involving. It certainly led to the fight between Kylo Ren, Rey, and Finn is my favorite, I think, certainly lightsaber fight of any of these films, originals and prequels included. I think it balanced the sort of flashy, completely weightless prequel fights with the slower, heavier originals, found a wonderful middle ground on that. And then the sheer emotion of it. For one, I really love both Finn and Rey. I don't want anything to happen to them, but I was so emotionally conflicted on Kylo Ren, where my immediate, moviegoer, big action blockbuster impulse was, let's kill this guy, let's fuck this guy up. And then it's, wait, let's not hurt him, let's, bring him back. And it was such an exciting feeling to me to be so mixed on the fight and yet be so impressed by the fight itself. The rest of the film, I generally agree with what everyone said. I think it's very fun. It's shockingly modern to the point where I first saw it kind of after a marathon of everything because I'm a huge nerd. And it's so modern in its presentation and its editing and the way it's shot that it took me a moment to adjust to it after sitting through 1 through 6, which, have very similar sense of camera work and movement. But, generally with the Star Killer based stuff, I agree. I love the cast. I love the characters in it. I suppose I felt sort of the same as I felt after watching Empire Strikes Back for the first time. You didn't have the giant cliffhangers, but it's, I want the next movie now. And I can't think of a better compliment to give it than that.
Agreed. Now, Jamie, I want to know what you thought in the form of a very specific question, because if we'd seen it together, this is, honest to God, the first thing I would have asked you as we walked out, because we talked about this when we met. Out of the two good Star Wars movies that J.J. Abrams has made at this point, is Force Awakens or Star Trek better, and why?
Oh.
I think he made a better Star Wars movie with Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Thought you might say that.
I kind of agree.
Why?
I sort of agree. With Star Trek 09, I thought the threads came together building towards that ending where all of the emotional arcs kind of came together in a similar place very well. Whereas I thought Force Awakens, which is the movie I really like, they pushed outwards. You didn't have the moment of everything coming together, which makes sense because you're setting up, another movie. But I just thought maybe it played a little bit better in Star Trek.
I can't really put my finger on it, but I think he did a great job both times. I don't know. Maybe it's because with Star Trek we were not expecting it to work as well. Like it just kind of did come out of nowhere. There was a lot less expectations. Although ironically, also just by sheer like a comparison of essentially he directed the same scene twice, which is the death of a planet. The big bad thing that the heroes have to stop is the exact same thing in both movies, which is this planet-destroying device. It's in both movies, and yet he did it really well in Star Trek, and in Force Awakens, it's a random planet, and it's people you don't know. There's no face to it. There's no emotional value to these places. Where you see Star Trek, it's Spock's home. His mother is killed. Most of the population of Vulcan is like, he says in the movie, they're now an endangered species. Like, there's only got like maybe maybe about 1 million Vulcans left now. I don't know what the line is. Like, it's the same exact material, and yet he handled it a lot better in one movie compared to the other one. That's just one random example.
No, it's such a good. Now you say it, I'm like, if Force Awakens had scenes like that, then I probably wouldn't have been bothered by the Starkiller stuff. But it's because it's so.
Exactly, that's the problem. Is like it just like having a line of dialogue saying, "Oh, it's like the Death Star." No, it's 10 times bigger. It's like, no, that actually you can't say a line like that. That's silly because you're trying to basically tell the audience like you're copping out that you're remaking the movie, that you're using the exact same plot device, and you can't do that.
It felt like the one time the movie maybe didn't have confidence in its characters to carry it, where they didn't think the emotional value of Rey and Kylo Ren would be enough, so they kind of fell back on the super weapon, whereas Star Trek used that weapon to kind of push the movie forward.
And it meant something.
In Star Trek, there was emotional value.
There's a ticking time bomb that they're going to Earth, now it's Kirk's home. So now we have to really get, it's always, I know there's the cliche, it's all about Earth, but it actually meant something in this movie, and it didn't really mean as much in this movie because, yeah, they're echoing Star Wars and at the end of that movie, but that also meant more that they're about to hit Yavin. I say this, but like that's one point. I think he did a great job on the movie. I need to see it again. Obviously, I didn't really feel the fan pandering was as bad as people said it was. No. Although Phil brought the Superman Returns analogy to it, and I thought that was really spot on. In that it's a movie that uses the past to bridge the future with a franchise.
Okay, can we just stop referencing Superman Returns from here on out, please? Please, Jamie and Phil, please.
Okay. Oh, he's so sensitive, isn't he? About the past. Never mind. Okay. Well, there's a couple of things that, a couple of other points that I'd love to...
I do... We're going to keep going with a few more things real quick, if that's okay.
About Superman Returns? Apparently not.
No.
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 Jamie,
no, go ahead, sir, please.
No, but the movie's like, there was a point in the movie early on talking about the casting. Like, yeah, the acting is all great. The person who stood out to me was actually Oscar Isaac, because you immediately liked his character, and there hasn't been a straight-edge good guy since Luke Skywalker. And there's a moment at the beginning when he's being tortured by Kylo Ren, and he goes, so how does this go? Do you start or I do? I leaned over to my girlfriend Anna, and I just said, movie star. Like, it's just like, wow, like this... That's the guy who actually stood out the most to me for this movie, and I kind of is great. I don't want to say the movie suffers without him, but I did kind of wonder, like, oh, when does Poe Dameron get back into the equation? Like, that character was so, boy, he stood out.
Hey, Poe, I thought you were dead. Nope.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. Nope. It was a total Ralph Wiggum, and like you didn't mind it.
No, you didn't. That's true. I love that scene where they reunite. It's
great. It means something.
Yeah.
I love the scene where they're talking to each other while they're both. The thing about it's kind of weird is like what's great is like there isn't a character like the closest character in the original trilogy that is the audience is Luke, and that's a great like cipher character because Luke has the quintessential hero's journey of our time, and that's why that character. The last 3 minutes of the movie meant a lot to me because my heart was literally pounding because I was waiting to see him again. I didn't give a shit about Han Solo. I never understood this fandom nerdgasm over that character. I thought he was a cool character whose entire arc was served at the end of Star Wars. But my point being is that there's like, the entire cast is full of people us. Like, we are fuck up. We would hurt ourselves more than we would hurt the other guy. And I like that was represented a lot, actually. Like, these are audience characters. Like, we are ourselves to these, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Absolutely. Well, like I say, that's why Finn connected, certainly with me, so very much, because what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a guy who just instinctively feels what is right and what is wrong, and acts on those instincts, and that's all the explanation I need. Some people are inherently good. There's nothing, you don't need to rationalise it any more than that. So that works, and then the fact is that he's also extremely incompetent at most things, and he tries to be a hero in the way that, you know, he thinks it should be done.
You would.
So he grabs Rey's hand and says, I'll take you, I'll rescue you. And she's like, yeah, we can run together, you don't need to hold my fucking hand. And then, you know, obviously the bit where with BB-8 where he's just get me out of this, will you? I'll help you if you help me. Can you please just bail me out here? Because I'm flying by the seat of my pants here.
The reason why BB-8 works as a character is that he's alive. He's real. Like in the same way that Yoda was real, in the same way is Jabba the Hutt was real. It's not a Muppet. There's something about like the way it was executed, and certainly the lighting, so that you have to make sure it looks right. But like that was not a Muppet we were watching. That was a real character in the movie. And the same thing with the droids, like R2 and 3PO. And yet you've seen all these other movies, and the prequels. I'm with Matt. I don't hate them. They're what they are. I don't mind them. But like BB-8 was a real character. Like me and you joke, Phil, about, you know, who played Blofeld and From Russia with Love ? Or himself. Like that's the attitude. No, BB-8 was played by himself. Yeah. That was a real character, a real creation.
Max Rebo was real as well, you know.
I don't see my only issue, and we'll get to this in a little bit.
Was real.
In our heart.
Max Realbo.
Nice, well put. I see what you did there. My only issue, not an issue, but like I don't know, and we'll get to this later. But like I don't know what you do with BB-8 now, because I think Matt and I talked about this. I don't know what you do with that character, because like he served his purpose, and
you team BB-8 up with R2, and they have fun shenanigan adventures together.
I guess and there's a big criticism going on as we speak on the Twitter sphere about and I never heard of this word, so you guys are
Twitter sphere. You just said it.
Thank you. The word I'm about to say is jackass, but thank you.
Are you about to, I think I know what you're going to say.
You know, go and say it. You know what I'm going to say.
Well, no, I mean, it's not. Are you going to bring up the whole Mary Sue thing?
Mary Sue thing, I never knew what that was, and I heard them talk about it, and it's like this criticism that Rey is too powerful. And it's like, yeah, but it's a new character, it's a new circumstance. Like,
what the fuck?
You can't just, dude. It's a serious argument. People are saying like
they say Rey she's too perfect, too powerful, blah blah blah. Doesn't really bother them when their male characters are like that, but
exactly
Rey,
doesn't. Yeah, no one cared when that happened to a male character. So yeah, I know. It's a real thing going on as we speak. Like right now, it's going on right now.
Well, can we not talk about it?
The best character.
I think it's interesting. It's an interesting.
I like Phil's attitude.
I think it's an interesting debate, but like I don't agree with it. Like, I mean, look, me and Phil love Superman movies, and while we have personally complained that he is too powerful in the last two movies, nobody else complained. I remember Phil, me and you both talked about this religiously. So did Randall, about he's too powerful. You need to depower him, and yet no one else said a word. So why are we now saying that when it's a woman? Like I do kind of feel if it was a guy, like we have proof that's right there.
Well, I mean,
there's always contrarians, though. It's like you're just going to run into that, especially on the internet. Like there are whole movements against better judgment based on like people just being reactionary and fearful of everything. Right. There's no reason. I don't think there's a reason to give it validity.
Well, you know what? Like, I'll even use a more human example than Superman. Jason Bourne, like, he's the ultimate modern day badass ass kicker. No one complains about that. Like, when has Jason Bourne ever not like had the perfect like way of kicking someone's ass in a movie? He uses a goddamn magazine in the second movie to kick a guy's ass. Did anybody complain? No, it was the highlight of that movie to a lot of people. So it's a strange. I mean, it's an interesting point, but it's like it didn't. It's like, well, the character was really well perfectly I don't know perfectly, but like she's. Yeah, I mean, Daisy Ridley is a real find. Like she's. I don't know what's going to happen to her career once Star Wars is over, but you know, we'll see about that. But like, boy, you certainly want to see where that character is going to go, because she does she captures the screen. Just in the same way that Boyega does and Oscar Isaac does. And I don't know about Adam Driver, if he actually captures the screen or not. He's a compelling character. I feel like I'm going a little bit to making too many points at once, so stop me at any time, fellas. But like, I kind of thought that the illusion of Kylo Ren was a little bit taken away when we see his face, because we knew it was Adam Driver and he was so intimidating. And maybe that's what makes the character even better, is that we're so intimidated by this guy without like seeing what he looks like, that when he looks like a dweeb. You're just like, maybe that makes the character even more interesting. Like, oh, that's why.
I think it's an interesting point, but for me, I would disagree only because I absolutely fucking loved that line where he said, "Your son was weak. I killed him," and it means so much more to me when that he's unmasked and saying it. You know, Han's looking at his son, and yet his son is saying, "Your son is dead. I killed him." That means a lot more to me. It would work masked as well, I think. Kind of, except for that face-touching bit.
No, but
apart from that, but I personally like that he's unmasked. Because, and I'll tell you why, Jamie, there was a really fascinating story choice made in this movie, which I wanted to ask the whole group about. I think because I have a theory where episode 8 is going, which is, I think, not what people are expecting, I'm okay with it, depending on where it goes. But I'm absolutely fascinated by the choice they make in the climax. The final lightsaber duel is not a draw. Ren doesn't win, Ren loses. His ass is kicked. Thoroughly.
Yeah.
This is the first one of a trilogy. I presume he's staying around for all three.
He's emasculated. That's the thing.
He's defeated completely. And I know, like, Supreme Leader Snarky Pants is saying that he's going to give him more training and stuff and get him ready. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe, but still, he lost. And it's like, I was so fascinated by that because it would have been so easy to have, the ground tear apart before that can happen. So it's a draw, and they're both lucky to make it out alive, and we can keep debating about who would have won, or repeat Empire's climax, of course. And I'm like, they don't do that.
This isn't Kato versus Robin. Like, there's clearly a definitive winner in an 8 kilo.
No, exactly. So I wanted to ask the whole group what they thought of that.
To be fair, the whole fight, Kylo Ren suffers a blaster shot from Chewie from the blaster that's been established in the movie as being ridiculously powerful.
Did he get shot in the crotch? I thought about that.
Like the waist.
No, he got shot like it was kidney kind of.
No, he got shot in the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he keeps pounding himself.
What?
That's so weird too. The way my audience laughed when he did that. Like he just keeps pounding his side. Just like, what's he trying to do? Is he just trying to like get it all out or something? I thought like he was
kind of revving himself up.
I have to say the story real fast because you gave it away about the scene with Han Solo being killed, which we all knew was going to happen. Obviously, when that scene happened, there was a little girl who spent the rest of the movie, which was like 20 more minutes. The movie kept asking, is Han Solo dead? And I had to shush the child out loud. And the kid kept talking.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then my girlfriend stared at the mother and gave her a shut your fucking kid up look. And then our friend Gregor gave a similar look, and they kept talking. And we were having dinner later after the movie, talking about it and loving it. We all love the movie. And I regret that I didn't look at the child and go, Han Solo died, and he would have come back if you had shut the fuck up.
I can't believe you shushed a kid who was traumatized by that scene. That scene
child
scarred me. That scene scarred me, man. I was sitting there for the rest of the movie like.
Did you say the same thing to your wife? Is Han Solo gonna be okay? Your wife's like,
Is Han coming back, or what?
Fine.
Is he dead? What's happening?
He's fine.
That scene ripped. I think that scene actually took part of my soul.
I walked out
of that movie and I felt different.
Well, that scene was exactly what it needed to be. Like, there is not a single thing you can complain about that scene at all. Like, it is so, like, on, like, so...
Jamie, you say that, but you said Kylo Ren shouldn't have taken the mask off, so...
No, I'm referring to the first scene.
Oh, okay.
Like, when we first see it, like, when he's with, Rey.
Right.
Because, like, it's like, it would have been better to save that for the scene with Han Solo.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting point. That's true. But can I?
You don't really get why he's so angry. I'm sure we'll get that developed later. That he's the son of a great hero. Also, his like devotion to grandfather helped me. Does this kid not remember that his grandfather also kind of like was a big badass, and then he also kind of backed off being a badass? Like, did he not?
No, Jamie. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows what went on in that throne room except Luke. Remember?
Oh, really?
Of course.
Yeah.
That wasn't really clear to me, actually. All that was clear to me was like, oh, there's a legend of Luke Skywalker who's the last of the Jedi, and that was
the problem that you're talking about is kind of it's an Abrams, because the characters have no sort of any real motivations. They don't have strong depth. They don't have the drive outside of their external immediate needs. And even if they're in the background, they're still always immediate. Like, Rey is torn because it's like, well, my family's coming back, and then she has this inner... I mean, I guess she's the only character with, like, a real strong inner drive where she wants more, and she, you're playing with, like, the X-Wing helmet and stuff, and it's a cool little moment where you get, like, some sense of greater, like a destiny kind of thing that you get with Luke Skywalker. But a lot of the characters that I still don't understand much about them. I don't know why someone would devote their life to the dark side. Like, I mean, they're going to explain that later, but that's a little, I mean, there's not much to chew on here. It's kind of like, okay, well, they did, and now we're seeing the consequences, but...
Randall, the dark side is easier, quicker, more seductive. That's all I need to know. It's always been the most brilliant piece of writing in the series. It's like, I get why anyone would turn. Everybody wants things quicker and easier.
Yeah, I just there's no real example of that, and there's a lot of examples of the time being taken up with like cool like sequences of action and just random stuff being introduced and discarded within scenes. But I would have definitely liked to have seen just a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
I just say real quick. Also, like another scene, actually, the scene that actually it's a little bit. It's at the end of the movie that actually moved me, and it was something that kind of went back to the original trilogy when we revisited them before the movie before we saw Force Awakens. Was at the end of the movie, who comes along with Rey and Chewie to see Luke? It's R2-D2, and you see in the background he is so ecstatic to see his master again, and it's actually really moving to see those. Because, like, I don't know, something about that was just very sweet, and it's something that echoed to the Poe Dameron characters. Like, droids are, like, third-class citizens in this universe, in this world, and, like, they are not treated nicely by anybody, ever. Like, Han treats them like shit, Leia's kind of whatever, but, like, Luke actually respects and treats them with love and dignity, and it's actually really sweet to, like, that R2 just kind of shut down because his master disappeared, where 3PO had to keep going, even though he didn't like to. He just had to still serve his function, and he comes back when he hears, oh my god, he's alive, and I'm gonna see him again. And you see him in the background, and like R2 is literally shaking. It's like those videos you see of like a dog that's seeing its owner after they came back from like military service. I actually was very moved by that. I might be jumping ahead of myself on this, but I really wanted to see that scene in Episode 8 where he just says he's actually says hello to R2 again. Maybe that's just me, but I thought that was so fucking moving.
I just want to, if I may, mention, first of all, I wanted to ask that question to everybody. What do they think? I'll start with Spencer, actually. What did you think of that choice at the end that Kylo loses the fight? Were you as perplexed as I was by that choice?
No, I don't think so, because I feel like that's kind of the point of the whole movie. Like we said, like the Force Awakens refers to Rey, and the whole point of the First Order and the whole movie, their goal is to find Luke, because they think when they kill him that all the Jedi are gone. And when Rey appears and is powerful and can defeat a trained, I don't want to call him a Jedi or a Sith, she's not either really, but when she can defeat someone that's been trained in this stuff, very easily, that throws a wrench in their entire plan. It throws a wrench in their, their outlook and their goals. So it's not surprising, because I feel like that sets up the rest of the trilogy.
Exactly. I mean, I wasn't going to get into this, obviously, all this horrible bullshit that Jamie brought up as far as Rey being too powerful, but if they don't understand what this story clearly is going to be, then I feel sorry for them. I mean, it is so much more dramatically satisfying, and true enough, the prequels could never do this because the Jedi were numerous, but it is far more dramatically satisfying to think that there are only one or two people in the galaxy who have this sort of power. And now, when everybody finds out, and certainly, Supreme Leader knows that Rey is more powerful than Kylo Ren could ever be, then it just makes all the sense in the world to me. Now she is going to be pretty much the plot device for the next two movies. I mean, it's so clear. Luke's going to be with her, and Snoke's going to be trying to get her. I mean, what's going to happen in Episode 8 is so clear to me. So if people are complaining she's too powerful, well, I'm really, really sorry, but, fuck them, as far as I'm concerned. And the other thing, too, guys, is that, I don't know about you, but that this movie makes the Force mysterious again and cool again. And Kylo Ren can do things in this movie that I just couldn't believe. When he stops that beam, that laser beam in midair in the first scene, my jaw hit the floor. I just couldn't believe it. I just thought, that is so fucking cool that he can do that. It's like, it is a Force choke kind of thing, but it just takes it to the next level, and it's not too huge, it's not too flashy. Kylo Ren cannot rip a building apart or anything like that, and if he has to destroy something, he does have to get out his lightsaber and trash it, but it's still the idea of putting real power like that in the hands of someone with a temper is just really, really cool. And I presume that kind of, force, what would you call it? Force paralyzer move is something you can only do if you're with the dark side. I presume, I'm guessing that. It's so cool. And the other thing, guys, this is my favourite moment in the movie, bar none. And I'm surprised no one's mentioned it yet. I love so much the fact that that the stormtroopers are real people again. When Kylo Ren trashes that room and you see those two guys and they hear it from across the way and it's like, let's go the long way. I fucking died. I absolutely believe that these guys are people who take their helmets off and have a smoke when no one's looking. These are real people. And I'm almost afraid to see them get killed and shot down and stuff. And that's a bit that's confusing as well to me. It's because they've clearly established that what the Order does is that they kidnap children when they're too young to remember anything and recondition them and turn them into killing machines. Which, okay, fair enough. I mean, it's certainly a way to recruit and it's better than clones. I completely agree there. And it's such a cool origin for stormtroopers. But I don't know about anybody else, but I'm going to feel guilty whenever these guys get mowed down in the future. And I was kind of confused why Finn is so willing to kill them. I presume he grew up with a couple of these dudes. One of them obviously traumatized him when he died in Finn's arms. So that bit was a bit confusing to me. Randall?
Yeah, I was confused about that too, because it was like Finn was supposed to be the stormtroopers to a certain degree, and then it's like one guy died and then he switched. I didn't have a problem with any of this, but it was funny that later on in the movie he's like, oh yeah, I'm a good guy, I used to be a stormtrooper, now kill these motherfuckers. And you're like, oh, hold on a second, are you saying that they're all capable of redemption? I didn't understand what was unique. Maybe they're going to answer this later, but I didn't understand what stood out about his experience that made him above the rest of them, other than he woke up. But I don't know that I understood exactly why that made the other guys, why that made them exempt from that, where there was no, but they're evil.
That's a spin-off movie, dude. That'll be the sequel, is Daniel Craig as the Stormtrooper.
And that was definitely him, because when I heard his voice second time I watched it, I was like, that sounds a fucking lot like Daniel Craig. That's where I get my outrage comes out, because every motherfucker decided it was okay to blab at Friday morning. I was like, you know what? Not everyone's seen it, so how about you just shut the fuck up for 48 really fucking hours? Though. It is.
You never know it was Daniel Craig.
You are ruining a surprise for people, because
but you don't know it's him until someone tells you it's him.
Spencer spotted. I guarantee people in the audience are, hey, is that Daniel Craig? People spotted the voice. They could not. Collider started it. Those little fuckers could not control themselves to blab it in a headline. If you want to
Spencer,
put it,
did you know it was him your first time?
When you heard
first
the voice,
time, no.
You heard
the
voice.
See, I didn't know. I didn't hear it until the second time I saw the movie, when I'd actually heard it was him.
You could tell it's his voice, that.
So you knew it was him the first time you saw the movie?
Yes. I've only seen it once.
You are literally the only person I know who made that connection.
It's that sounds like Daniel Craig.
It's just not a spoiler. It's not a
You're ruining.
point.
It's a surprise. I'm saying it's a surprise. It's nice to not being told that little bit. That's all I'm saying.
It's like the Simon Pegg cameo. No one knows what character he plays unless someone tells you after the movie which character he played.
Yeah.
But you knew he was in it.
There's no argument to be made that you should spoil surprises for people. There's no good reason to do that either. I understand that. Nobody's going to call it, but at the same time, what good is it telling people about this stuff before they see it?
How is it a surprise?
Because they want hits, and they want to just keep getting all the attention, and they want to be the first ones to blab. And then because they came out first, everyone else started putting headline articles about the same thing. That pissed me off a lot, actually. That really chapped my ass. Come on, guys, really, we're going to do this?
I think it's such a silly thing to get angry about. Really silly
it speaks to how stupid our community is. They don't think.
It'd be like complaining that someone said Warwick Davis is in episode 1.
He is? Dude.
Yes.
Actually, speaking of which,
it's that kind of...
I do want to segue one thing here, because Phil and I hung out a couple of days in Dubai, and we both agreed that the coolest Star Wars sounding character besides Poe Dameron was Captain Phasma, and it became a personal obsession of ours to find a Captain Phasma action figure. And Phil.
Why? Did you want one that would get taken out really easily?
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing.
Well,
no, I'm
we don't
glad
know.
Jamie mentions that, because that's, speaking of things which people have been getting not upset about, but a little bit uppity about.
Understandably.
No, not understandably. Not understandably at all, actually.
They hyped up.
No, not at all.
They hyped.
No, we did. We did, Jamie. They didn't do shit. We did it all for them. And this always happens with Star Wars. That character... Look, automatically we gravitate to the image of the character that looks coolest, and they definitely threw in that shot in the second trailer of a stormtrooper in a cape, and that's great, and the fact that it's being played by Gwendolyn Christie is another thing, and it's just like, well, awesome, I mean, that'll be a nice character. I personally thought, before I went into the movie, I was like, okay, well, I assume that she's Finn's captain, so I bet, like, the antagonist for Finn is her, and they'll have a fight at the end, because he's not gonna fight. Like, I literally thought that when he has the lightsaber, he was going to take on her at some point. I didn't know where it was going to be set, but I assumed he was going to have a fight with her, and that was going to be it. It didn't happen, but I didn't care. When I saw it, I was just like, oh, she's like the Moff Gerodroid of this movie. Think about it this way. Think about if Return of the Jedi was being made today in the internet age, and let's say Moff Gerodroid, for those of you who don't know, he's the simpering Imperial guy in the opening scene who says, but he asks the impossible, I need more men, and all that shit. And what if he was played by someone really, really famous? Or Peter Dinklage, maybe. Wouldn't that be fun? Something like that. And you're like, oh my god, this guy's going to be in the movie, and he's going to be a bad guy, it's going to be really, really cool, and all that stuff, and he's in for one scene. Doesn't matter if the scene functions. And Phasma's duty was to be a yes sir, no sir, and that's fine, because you need someone like that. The fact that she looks cool, why not? The Star Wars universe is full of a billion characters like Phasma who have very little purpose, but their importance is completely blown up by us because she looks cool.
You know why? Well, Phil, here's the thing. I respectfully disagree. I see your point. I'm not angry at the movie for that. That's not a big deal, but it's something that they did bring upon themselves because they made a big deal about it was supposed to be a man. They changed it to a woman, and it was going to be Benedict Cumberbatch for a while. And they even had the actress doing press for the movie, as if she
didn't she also
in the movie actors. But
didn't she also do like a bunch of?
Mark Hamill did no press for this movie, and he is even less.
Because he doesn't have a line.
That was weird, by the way. Ugh. I'm not upset by it. No, I'm not upset by it or anything. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. But my point was just like they did make a big deal about that character. They did. Like it wasn't just us being fans reading into it. They helped.
It was just you being fans reading.
It was
exactly
absolutely fans reading into someone who looks cool.
It really was.
Yeah, it's the Boba Fett.
I don't see what they did, what wrong. She didn't have. It's not like she had like character posters or full biography or stuff. She's in the poster and she's tiny and she's in 2 shots in all of the trailers and because she's not in the movie very much. And would it have been fine to have that angle I'm talking about where she's Finn's antagonist? Sure it would, but it wouldn't have made the movie any better. Not to me.
And she'll probably be back for the next.
Well, yeah, they've already talked about that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my point, though. It's like,
we're just talking about this movie. It doesn't matter. We'll do the other movies later. But no, I just feel like it's... Look, what have I always said about the Star Wars universe? I always go back to that scene in Empire on the bridge of the Star Destroyer where the bounty hunters show up. And every single one of those characters is beautifully designed, is completely a unique species that we never see again, and we never see any of those dudes ever again. Doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. They've all got their own stories and they all go off and we'll never see them again. And really, that's all Captain Phasma is to me. She's a bounty hunter on a bridge and we won't see her, but God, she looks cool and I'd be very happy to have her on my desk as a keepsake. That's what Star Wars does,
4,000 issues of a comic book devoted to her.
Yeah, which I won't read. So, but people want to, that's absolutely fine.
Is it the new Boba Fett or like?
That's another thing. I don't want people to be the new whatever. If there's something that this movie proved is that you don't need the new whatever. You can have characters. Rey is not the new Luke, and Finn is not the new Han or anything else, and BB is not the new R2, and Kylo is certainly not the new Darth, and Hux is certainly not the new Tarkin. They're all completely new characters to me, at least new characters to Star Wars. They're their own people now, and I love them all individually, and I want to see more of them.
It does seem like Kylo is this stealthy, kind of superior telling of the Anakin story, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. That is true, actually. Yeah.
No question.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Well,
I like that he even kind of has Anakin hair from Episode 3.
I wasn't impressed by General Snooky. I was kind of hoping he would. They kept talking about they didn't know what he was going to look like, and they'll probably. I think Matt was the one who said they'll probably redesign him between now and the next movie. But I'm with you guys. I wish they had held off on that character because what a big deal it was to see the Emperor in the second movie, because you had, as far as we knew, watching these movies as little kids, is like Darth Vader answered to nobody, and then you found out no, there's actually someone who Darth Vader answers to, and there's that one moment, that little bit in Empire where he talks to the Emperor, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And in a cool way. I kind of wish they'd saved that.
Well, that goes back to Spencer's point,
and
actually.
then in the next movie, he'll answer to an even bigger hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll just keep going.
Well,
You know that when they finally show him, he's actually going to be really.
yeah, exactly. I wondered about that. Yeah, and
He's going to be the inverse.
but
of
it goes
Yoda.
back to, if I may, that goes to directly, and it's probably the best example of Spencer's point about the way exposition is handled to create a big world in this movie versus what Star Wars did. And in Star Wars, Tarkin. For as far as we're concerned, Tarkin runs the Empire. He mentions the Emperor, and that's fine because it's a Flash Gordon throwback. And at that point, he probably looks like Ming in our heads because we don't see him. And then there it is, and we don't have to worry about it too much. And you could have totally done that in this movie, but no, we have to see him because he has to mention all these important things like, bring her to me and we'll finish your training. I love the character personally. I'm fascinated by it. I really love that bit. It really, because it scared me. I've got the feeling, I haven't asked any children about this, but I've got the feeling that for small kids, that character freaks them the fuck out. Those scenes are really wonderfully lit, and he is a scary looking thing. To me, at least he was. And I love the bit where General Hux says something about, he says, I take full responsibility, and Snoke goes, General! And he just stands up and he's like that, and I'm like, he's scary. I hope he's not tiny. I really do hope he's that big.
I feel like that will be the big fight in Episode 9. Will be him versus Luke.
You think?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think Luke is going to be dead by the end of this trilogy. I think he's going to be. I think the shock value of killing off Han Solo is, even though everyone knew it was going to happen, I feel like that. I think that's going to be the only major death in the movie. Honestly, in the trilogy, I don't see Luke. Go ahead, Randall. I'm sorry.
It fucking better be, man. I can't take another one of these main character deaths in the series. I had like the biggest headache after that movie from stifling, just open sobbing about Han Solo.
That's kind of the thing. Is I think there's enough people to know, do we really want to deprive the audience of these characters, even though it's like real life, although these movies certainly aren't. It's we are mortal, we die, and it's just these stories that
we all get stabbed by our own son with a lightsaber.
We all do.
Eventually, right?
We all have to go away, secluded to a place that looks like Ireland. Standing on top of a mountain all day, doing nothing, just looking out. Actually,
if you're telling me you had a problem with that scene, I don't know what to do with you, Jamie. I really don't. The last scene.
No, it's just the way it was executed. The last shot, not the last scene.
Oh,
the
good.
last
All right,
shot. The way it was executed. That's what I meant. What did I say? Did I say scene? I meant to say shot. By having the last shot be a helicopter shot, I was you could have done this better. You could have just had a wide shot, and that's it.
I was expecting a bunch of helicopters to come up behind him, and then Ray could say, latest thing from Q Branch, it's called a radio. That's what I was expecting, man.
Yeah, if they had cut away on his face, that would have been the best version of that ending, I think.
Or handing the lightsaber back.
I like the helicopter shot, I just think they held it too long.
Well, that's like totally like a Tony Scott like shot from.
I know
a
exactly, like the
different movie.
Michael Bay
like,
or Tony
Take
Scott.
It's like oh, what is this? Yeah, it's like the shot from like Spy Game just made it into the movie. You're like,
I
what?
get it.
They just
That's
superimposed them. That was a very strange choice. That was the only choice where I really thought like JJ, what?
I
Like,
love the way it looks though.
huh?
It's
Oh, me
the
too.
hair,
What?
the hand. I just about broke up because he looked like, I don't know if anyone else made this connection, but I did, unfortunately, read the comic book that's based on the first draft of
Is that
the
good?
Star. No, it's not, but it's not meant to be. It's a fucking mess. That's why it was rewritten.
With Eric, his name's like Eric Starkiller.
General
or whatever.
Starkiller, yeah, he's a 60-year-old, and Luke's a 60-year-old in that one. And he actually reminded me of the original, well, the artwork that was done for that comic book. I don't know if that was a deliberate choice, but he
That might have been.
definitely looked that way.
That might have been.
They snuck in some concept art stuff throughout the movie. Like
Yeah.
they follow like the proto Chewbacca through that new cantina.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
And the name of the Starkiller base. That's homage to his name was Starkiller.
Well, then
so
also, there's a piece of concept art where a stormtrooper has a lightsaber and a shield, and then they kind of redid it with that one that fights Finn.
Oh right.
I love the look too, Phil. I really wanted him to say something, but it's like you sit there going, yeah, but how would you react? Like he couldn't say like, why, thank you. So it's like, yeah, it's probably best that he didn't say
I can't
anything.
think of a single thing he could have said.
That's well, I mean, only because like, well, okay. So was that line recorded for the trailer then?
Yeah, must have been.
Okay.
Which line?
The scene in the first trailer. Was that the first trailer? Luke's
No,
line.
that's the scene for Return of the Jedi. It's his monologue in
It is.
Jedi rearranged.
I thought it was reworded
Leia.
though. It sounded like
No. It's exactly stuff he says in Return of the Jedi. They just change a little bit, so he says they rearrange it to end with "You have that power too," which he said to Leia in that monologue.
Yeah, he did. I come to that conclusion. There's a few things in the trailers they're not in the movie. Like,
including the money shot from the TV
yeah,
trailer.
it's not in there because he had the
I
hood
thought
on
that
in
was-
that.
I love that. I think that's awesome. Even is the shot of Finn in the desert? Is that in the movie?
Yes.
It is, but it's
Although
not.
you
It's
don't
not
see
played
pop-up
the same
stuff.
way.
And all of Lupita Nyong'o's lines in the trailers are not in the movie. Like, just let it in. That's not in the movie. At least I didn't hear it. Hope is not lost today, it is found. That's not in the movie. I don't think anything was cut really per se. I just think it's stuff that was done for the trailer specifically.
Which is great. I wish more people would do that.
I know some of the guys have to run in a little bit, but if I may, if you'll allow me, folks, I just want to tell you how I see Episode 8 ending, just so I can say it now. Not that I want to do I told you so come May 2017, but just because I've never had this strong a hunch about how a movie's gonna play in its ending than I do about Star Wars Episode 8. Because I got to thinking, I mean, yes, you guys, and you told me this on the show, that of course Harrison's gonna die in this one. He's been wanting to. That's how they got him back, because he wanted to die, and they finally gave him the death scene. And a dump truck full of money, of course. But that got me thinking. Well, what about other things that perhaps the cast wanted to happen in the original trilogy that didn't? And that got me to thinking. Well, one of the things that Hamill's talked about is he assumed and thought that Luke would have to go. Sorry, not die, but turn to the dark side and then would be brought back. So I am absolutely convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Episode 8 will end with Rey turning to the dark side. Not a doubt in my mind that that's going to happen. Let's face it, Snoke says he's going to complete Kylo Ren's training, but it's Rey he wants. And I personally feel that, and this is not the way that people would imagine it to play. I would not at all be surprised if Kylo Ren dies in 8. I think the only reason he's having his training finished is so he can survive a fight long enough with Rey to turn her. There's a shot in the snow fight where Rey has that same look of anger on her that Luke had when he smacked Vader down in Jedi, which is so deliberate. And she's young and she's not going to be trained properly. And if it happens, of course, there's going to be this running joke that Luke cannot train anybody. He's so bad at this. Everybody he trains turns. But I truly believe that's what's going to happen, that she's going to turn at the end of episode 8. And more than that, I think the final shot is going to be Finn waking up from his coma. I don't think he's going to be in 8 until the very end. And that's going to be the setup for 9, that he's going to have to bring her back. It's so clear to me that's what's going to happen. It does, but that's
interesting.
You're wrong.
But
I'm just putting it out. You know.
No,
Nope.
they're apparently they are casting a love interest for Finn. Is that correct?
Yep.
So I thought I read. Actually, I did not like that. Actually, real quick, I did not like leaving him in a coma like that. I was like,
I was thinking,
really?
why did they do that?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
It's kind of like the carbonite thing, sort of.
Yeah, but this is like the first chapter, so it's like do that for the second one. Like
Finn
I
will
didn't
be
like
up.
that.
Finn will be up when episode 8 starts. I
I know.
guarantee.
I know. I'm not worried about it. He's a tough young scrapper, but still.
I'm interested to see how he develops on his own, so that it's not just all the main characters just holding hands and running around and like, you know, it's all self-contained. Like if he comes back, like they did this at the end in the original trilogy between all the movies. When Luke would disappear, he was separate from the main crew. And then he would come back and he like had learned new shit and was like kind of different. And I'm kind of eager to see that with Finn, because he needs a lot of development. He's the character that requires the most advancement to become more of like a normal, relatable person, as opposed to this brainwashed soldier. So I'm into that. I think that's actually a pretty great idea.
What I'll say I hope for in episode 8 is because Kylo Ren is returning to Snoke to complete his training. In true Star Wars fashion, he'll get there and Snoke will die, and Snoke will say, "You don't need more training."
That's true. That's just
because it rhymes.
Yeah.
By the way, so can we just go ahead and resolve this like prediction for 2 or 3 years from now? Is Rey a Skywalker?
Yes.
I don't think so.
No.
I really don't think she is.
I need her to be Kylo's sister for that to work. I really need that, because that whole thing where there's like that rift that emerges between them and stuff, like I just personally on an emotional level, I need them to be siblings for that to be, especially because I need Han and Leia to be redeemed, because if it's Skywalker's daughter versus their son, that's kind of fucked up. Like that's a weird dynamic. Like I like the idea that it's like they're both their brother and sister, and that they have a kid who isn't just a total piece of shit. That'd be nice.
The one thing that makes me think that's possible is, before I go, the little flashes that Rey sees when she touches the lightsaber. She sees like her parents or whoever ditching her. She sees the future. She sees the fight with Kylo Ren. Sees the woods, but she also sees the Academy being sacked, which could just be showing it. But it could also be, if all of those images relate to her, what if Rey was there?
I would hope not.
Yeah.
I would hope not, just because things don't have to be that connected. I'm fine with it, because these are smart people who are making these movies. They clearly know that we're gonna try to connect the dots by ourselves. It would be nice if they actually pulled a twist on us, like, no, she's just fucking someone else. She's actually Wedge Antilles' kid. Like, I don't know, just a random example.
Of course.
But I if they are cousins, that's great, because then we can start doing Simpsons jokes about marrying their attractive cousins.
Kylo himself establishes in this one that he feels the pull to the light side, so I sort of agree with Phil in that Rey will feel a pull towards the dark side, and Kylo Ren will be more towards the light, and you're going to have these two characters that are, you know, mixes of gray. They don't know which side they want to be on. They don't know what to do. But then also, like, why would Anakin and Luke's lightsaber then call to someone that is not, you know, within that direct line of descendants?
True.
But then also, Kathleen Kennedy has said, like, in reference to differentiating the anthology films from the episode films, is she says the episode films follow the Skywalker family.
Right.
So who would it be if it's not her?
Well, Kylo Ren.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kylo.
Right, but his name is Ben Solo. He's not Ben
So
Skywalker.
he's still a Skywalker.
I like that. By the way, I love that they called him Ben. I was like, hey, that's cool. You know.
I like how it was revealed.
Me too. Boy, I gotta give them a lot of credit for that too. The way they handled like the reveals were so like they did not make a moment out of it like they really could have. You thought they would have.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, they did a really good job on that one.
I really think that was Abrams learning from Into Darkness, kind of holding your hand.
You're
too long,
completely
how that
correct
could
on that.
damage
You could not be more right about that, Matt. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I just feel like I just don't think there's no Mara Jade in this continuity. So Luke has not had sex. He's not, and don't give me any virgin birth or conception through the Force. It's not his kid. It's not. As long as it's Leia's kid, she's still a Skywalker. I feel like that whole scene where Han talks to Rey about needing an extra hand on the Falcon and stick with me, and the fact that they're just completely in sync about, you know, how the Falcon works and about that kind of stuff. It's their kid. I like the idea that, you know, she met her dad, she knew her dad for a brief time, and then her dad died and she didn't even know it was him at the time. I like that. Obviously, it's weird how she doesn't meet Leia until the very end of the movie, and they don't know each other. They've never met before, but they just instantly have some kind of connection there and just hug. She's their kid. It's so crystal clear to me, and like you guys say, it's just more than, it's not about whose parents you are. It's just about the fact that, to me, her and Kylo Ren have to be brother and sister. It's just so clear to me that they are. Now the bigger question just for me is that, you know, I was just trying to think, because I'd been thinking about all that. I was just like, so what is Finn's role now? How does he fit into this? And I was just thinking that, you know, his role is going to be to pull her back from the dark side. That's his role. That's his function. And yeah, he's got a long way to go before he can even attempt something like that, true enough. But, fuck you, Matt. Just fuck you.
Tell the people at home what you just said.
I just wrote in our comment box that Finn's role is to slowly become evil, and he'll develop a British accent.
You're probably right.
Good night,
You're
folks.
probably right. Yeah, it's true. See, this is what it is, folks. This right here, what's going on? This is Star Wars. It's not like anything else, I'm afraid. I mean, it's all the conversations we've had about these kind of movies over the last couple of years, with the exception of X-Men, I guess, I can't think of another one where we've talked more about the story, more about the characters, more about the questions and answers, and more about just the meat of the movie's content than talking about the technical side of it, nitpicking plot holes, or talking about shit that really isn't important. We're in it. We're in the world again, you know, and we're getting excited about it. I certainly am. I can't wait for the others. The only thing before everybody goes, the last question I just want to ask is, me and Jamie talked about this, that regardless of how it had turned out, the reason I was excited about The Force Awakens is that I feel that it has been the most perfectly marketed film over the last couple of years. I can't think of a movie that I've seen more pitch perfect marketing for in recent memory. I really, really can't. I am fascinated as hell to see how they market Rogue One, because it's the next Star Wars movie, but it isn't. Because it's not obviously we all want to know, because we've just demonstrated it, what happens next, and instead the next movie we're going to get is this throwback with a really great idea, mind you, which you could really sell well if you get it right, especially if Vader's going to be in it, but still, it is not the next story. So I'm like, how does everyone feel about, you know, Rogue One and what they really need to do not to confuse the hell out of the general audience, who, let's be honest, don't know this movie's coming yet? Who wants to go first?
I don't know. I wish I had more to say. I've wondered the same thing.
I feel like, you know, I think that the first look, I mean, granted, it's just a production still, and that's douche of me to even suggest this, but the first production still, it automatically looks different from anything from Force Awakens. It doesn't even, I mean, it...
You're right, yeah.
I think they're going to go a long way by calling it a Star Wars story.
It's just fucking dumbass things.
I tell you,
But
I gotta be.
They do need to figure out a way. I mean, that's the only real way you can separate it from the episodes.
Well,
Because otherwise,
I
you're
think
really gonna
you know what? I think the usage of Vader in the footage. Vader will be the marketing strategy of this movie. He's clearly the bad guy in this movie. I think if I remember correctly, James Earl Jones did his voice for one of the new cartoons. Is that right?
He does it in Rebels. Yeah.
Okay, so when I saw that, I mentally knew, oh, he's going to be in Rogue One. He's going to come back. It probably won't be David Prowse. Maybe it will be. Who knows? And they'll get.
It'll be Hayden Christensen.
No, you guys laugh, but Peter Mayhew came back. Like I saw in the credits, Kenny Baker came back. Like they.
Yeah, but Peter Mayhew wasn't in the costume for most of it. There was another guy who was credited in the movie.
Get out.
Yeah, and Kenny Baker is credited as R2-D2 consultant.
I noticed that. Yes. I was kind of sad. I told my girlfriend, I was like, he was so old, he couldn't get in that anymore. And like, I wasn't meant as a joke. Like, that's true. He's so old, he cannot.
But you don't really need anyone in it anymore.
That's true. There's
That's
no
also
point.
why Chewbacca had only scenes of him sitting down.
I thought about that, Spencer. I wondered that myself. But no, Vader being utilized will be, I think, the big giveaway to people. Like, oh, this is something else. I think the marketing will clear. There'll be some kind of text about, before the Force awoke and before, they'll do some kind of line that makes it clear to people. I think.
I was going to say, I think that Jamie's right on the money with how they're going to go. Whatever this first teaser ends up being, whenever we get it, it'll be like before the Force Awakens, before the Jedi returned, before the Empire Struck Back, before the Death Star. There was blank, and then like the last shot will either. And then the last shot will either be Darth Vader walking onto the bridge or a door opening and revealing Darth Vader. I think you're right. He's going to be the crux.
It'll be the Chewie we're home moment of that teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely
Thinking about it, I hadn't really considered that, but it's brilliant from you guys because when you show Vader, he's so iconic. Immediately, the crowd, everyone's going to know where. But
the only issue with that suggestion that I just had in my head, and we're talking, is that they already played that trick with Revenge of the Sith trailers, and so will it have is that much?
Vader is finally here. This movie would be more. This is Darth Vader's era. So you're simultaneously selling the audience on this character you love is in this movie, and this is where the movie's set, and you're doing it in exactly the same shot.
And he's going to cut people left, right. I
don't have a problem with it. My only concern is that, that's clearly your hook, but I'd much rather have a marketing campaign which dangles the hook in front of you but doesn't show it. I mean, that's what I loved about going into The Force Awakens. I didn't know what Snoke looked like. I didn't know there was no Luke scene. Nothing had leaked in some fucking Japanese trailer. I was so grateful there were things held back. I barely knew what Mos Kanata looked like except the poster. So that was so great. And if Vader's going to be in this movie, I'd rather, if I'm going to see him at all in the trailers, I'd rather it just be from the back. I'd rather not see the scenes. I'd rather not get a line.
You know what?
They're gonna show.
You know what Darth Vader looks like.
Well, sure, I know, but it's still, you know what I mean, though. I mean, if you don't hold that back, what's the reason to go? What am I not going to see?
I think it should be clarified here that as of this record, they have not said if Vader's in the movie or not, but it seems obvious he's gonna be.
Yeah, come on, yeah.
I mean, they haven't said it. I mean, I don't even know who's playing. Is Matt Mikkelsen's in this movie, or maybe I misread that? Is he?
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah,
he's in it, but he's part of the group that steals the plans.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope that would be playing against type, man, because he always plays the bad guy, except for in King Arthur.
He's about to fucking turn around and do it right again in fucking Doctor Strange.
I was going to say, Jamie, what about Clash of the Titans? He's going to be playing the same role he had in Clash of the Titans. Right. I'm the gruff guy, and I'm probably going to die, but not before you see I'm not so bad.
And in King Arthur, he was the mysterious hero of the group. He was one of the rogue weirdo with the hawk as a pet. But he does. You know what, Phil? He has the best moment in Clash of the Titans.
The best moment in Clash of the Titans was the end credits, so I'm kind of struck in my.
The best moment right before he kills Medusa, he goes, "Tell the men."
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That was a great moment.
They could steal that. They steal the plans. Tell the men did this. Wouldn't quite work as well.
And then he smiles, turns to stone, and then dies. That was a great moment, dude.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, I'm excited about the movie. I still think, obviously, it has that obvious challenge, which is that we know how that particular... Well, we know what happens, we just don't know how it happens.
It has less... Abrams did take the brunt of... I don't know if he said this or it came out that a lot of directors turned down doing The Force Awakens because they didn't want to be the first guy, and Abrams said, fuck it, I'll be the first guy. So, I mean, a lot of the responsibility is off his shoulders now. And one could argue that, oh, well, now it's on this director, Gareth... who's the director of the movie? I was going to say Gareth Evans, but
that's Edwards. It's Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, I got to mix that
Oh,
up.
that's us. Let's, just before we do that, we are at this point going to have to bid adieu to Randall. We've had enough of his time.
Yeah, hey, sorry.
Not at all, sir.
I gotta run. Thanks. Thanks for having me, Spencer, Matt. Great talking with you guys. I just wanted to plug also, some friends and I did a little, like, Marvel style short film called Lost Avenger. If you can go to lostavenger.com and check it out, please do. Give us those sweet hits. Otherwise, it was
really good.
Really great talking with you guys. Thank you, Spencer. And it was great catching up with you guys. I'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
Merry Christmas, Randall.
Yeah,
All
later,
right, Merry
Randall.
Christmas,
Later,
everyone.
buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just,
Well, there's also the other spin-offs to keep in mind. I mean, they're going to do a Han Solo movie, which I think is, someone said out loud that actually might be that actually might be the other most anticipated movie besides Episode 8 in these movies they've announced. Directly is that one because everyone wants to see how they're going to how can they recast that role, which is not as big a
no, it's not a big deal.
It isn't as big a deal people think it is because, I mean, we live in a world where James Bond has been active for 50 years and that role continues to be recast. Batman's been Superman. Like, they keep recasting those roles. It's just that it's the hurdle that George Lazenby faced and that Brandon Routh faced, that you are the next guy. You're the first next guy.
I had a feeling about that. Apart from my general lack of enthusiasm for that particular movie, even though obviously I like Lord and Miller, but I'm just not interested.
They are better
these
off,
kind of anthology
They
movies.
are better off elsewhere, frankly.
But I had a feeling about that, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or anyone else agrees with me, but if we're going to have a Han Solo movie, and who the hell knows, if it works out, we might get we might get more than one Han Solo movie. It kind of takes the edge off what happened in this film. Like, as far as I'm concerned, Han Solo is dead and we're never going to see him again. But in a couple of years, it's the further adventures of Han Solo. It takes the edge off for me.
I think that was the idea, to be honest, Phil.
Well, we're not babies. We can deal... Well, apparently, Mum...
No, our community is not adults. They are babies. They are man-children and women-children.
I don't know, dude. All I can speak for is the two absolutely packed IMAX audiences I saw this with in London, and nobody lost their shit over this. I think most people saw it telegraphed. Everybody knew it was going to happen.
Everyone knew it was coming.
They dealt with...
My crowd lost their shit over it. And,
You
like,
still
not in a
lose-
bad, negative, I hate the movie way, but they lost
Just like,
their
yeah, just like in a joyous way. Just like, oh my god, so glad I went in spoiler free and all that, Yeah, that's fine, but it's not like anyone's crying in the hallways afterwards. In fact, the only reaction I heard from a child was walking out the second time, and it was, and I quote, "But he didn't say anything." That's what they said. And I just
Luke.
Yeah, about Luke, yeah. Like, the only...
Here's the thing. That's part of my issue with the Finn thing, is that if you had not had that tacked on coma thing, and like he's just okay, or he's just like you see him a little injured, but he's like, I'll be okay, then it's self-contained. And Abrams even said like, no, this one's self-contained. Like, no, it's not. It's so clearly not.
Yeah.
You could have, if you say you do that little bit with Finn, you recorrect that course, and then the movie still ends the way it does. Like, it's a self-contained story right there. It's not see you in 2 years, but it's what it is.
It's close. It gets a little borderline sometimes, but that's the thing. I mean, again, it's kind of a minor miracle to me. It skates really close to the edge of making those kind of pitfalls and mistakes, which would be so easy to make, but it doesn't for the most part. It really does a masterful job of dancing around them. It's not perfect, but to borrow a line from Frasier, my favourite sitcom, what's better than a perfect meal? A perfect meal with small flaws that we can incessantly pick at forever. And that's kind of what The Force Awakens is, We all like our little nitpicks, and that's what this film gives, so I really don't see how it could could disappoint many people. Though I totally get why. I totally get the criticisms. Like I say, I mentioned Nordling's review, and I got it. It was actually reading his review that afterwards I said, man, I'm not looking forward to this anymore. Which was great. It was exactly the right mentality to be in to see a movie like this. Not be overly hyped. Just go in, not expecting that much. And I went in, and as Jamie says, I saw it at 1 a.m. in the morning. I hadn't had any sleep, and it was exhausting, but in a good way. It was a real ride. It was a real journey. It had characters that I fell in love with. It had, obviously, it's beautifully made. It's beautifully designed. We knew it was going to be, but that still shouldn't take it for granted and just say that. It really, really does. And by the way, I'm not here to pimp Star Wars products, folks, but I do thoroughly recommend the art book. The Art of the Force Awakens book is just beautiful. There's so many interesting things in there. Like, for example, sorry, yes.
You forgot to pimp the other thing that we did together with Star Wars. I thought you were gonna pimp that too.
What's that?
The battle pod.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I figured most people have played that by now, but if you haven't, because I know arcades are pretty much folks. But yeah, we finally, me and Jamie, got to play the spiritual sequel to Star Wars Arcade, which is Star Wars Battle Pod. I'm sure some of you have at least seen it. It's like it says, you only get it in an arcade, and you actually climb into a pod, and then you go through the trilogy's greatest battles. So much fun. So much fun. I don't know if the guys here have actually played it or seen it.
You should.
But you should.
I don't know what it is.
Phil, we went to this amazing arcade, and Phil whispered to me, he said, in a week, you will have to fight through people to get into this game. And he was right. I'm pretty sure he's right. I haven't been back there since, actually.
It's basically all the adventure is. It's instead of just standing up or sitting in a seat, you actually go into a pod. So the screen is basically like
doors. Yeah.
It covers your full peripheral vision. It's absolutely, you can't, which makes it a bugger to play because you can't keep your eye on everything that's flying at the screen at you. But you just play through, all the big battles of the trilogy, the original trilogy. No prequel stuff in there, just original trilogy stuff. But you actually have not just a joystick, but you have a throttle as well, and whenever, like the Battle of the Death Star, it starts you on Yavin 4, and the TIE Fighter lifts off, but you have to push down on the throttle, and it takes you right out, and you fly into the atmosphere, and then leave it, and then go to the Death Star. I've never felt better in my life about anything. It was the best. It really was. If you can find it, folks, Star Wars Battle Pod, you've got to play that. I'm sure it's better than Battlefront, which I have no interest in playing whatsoever. That doesn't.
Battlefront.
Is it good?
Sounds fun. Yeah, it's very light. It's very arcadey, but it's something you play for like 40 minutes, really enjoy, and then don't play again for another day or two.
That game got overhyped big time. Big time.
Well, it's also getting geek smashed because people are mad that it's different from the old Battlefront games.
Gasp? Question mark?
Geek smashed, where they all get together and like, I hate this thing because it's not what I wanted.
The internet summed up in one sentence there.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Good place to end it, actually. Okay, folks, so, we could talk about trailers and stuff, but I'm kind of in a good mood, so I kind of don't want to do that.
That kids tells you what Uncle Phil thought of the slew of Christmas trailers. Phil and I saw a couple of them together, and we were just kind of like, I think we had like a 1 or 2 sentence reaction to Independence Day Resurgence. That pretty much tells you that right there.
I thought it looked okay. I'm just not going to get into it. I'm fascinated to see how it, how well it does. I have no idea how that's going to do, but
I
we saw throughout. We said. I said that they're making the same mistakes with that trailer that they made with White House Down, where they made it look like it's, this could all be happening right now. You don't do that with Roland Emmerich movies. His movies work when you embrace what they are. And we all know it, and Jamie confirmed it to me, that Independence Day 2 is going to be like Independence Day 1. It's going to be jokey. It certainly has a very dull-looking colour palette compared to that one, but whatever. I know it's going to be jokey.
I still think they made a massive mistake by not having Will Smith back. That is going to be a fatal mistake. Phil, tell them what your people said in your workplace about their most anticipated movie of next year, to give you kids out there the context of the movie that the folks really want to see.
Oh, indeed. Well, I mean, I have to give a bit of context to that because when I say my work colleagues, for the last couple of months, folks, I have been in India. Doing my job, working offshore. I had an absolutely wonderful, amazing time, and I'm hoping that I get to go back. And the very first week that I was with my new work colleagues in India, and of course knew really very little about the country, about the cinema scene. I'd passed the theatres there, and I could certainly see that they do have Hollywood movies, but they're kind of on a delay. Like, I didn't get to see Spectre for a good 3 weeks after my brothers in the UK got to. Can't say I'm too sorry about that, but yeah, there it is. But obviously, the theatres show an awful lot of their own resident movies as well, a lot of Bollywood stuff. So I'm speaking to these people not knowing what their cinema tastes are, and it turns out that they actually said to me, we don't watch that much Bollywood, we watch the Hollywood stuff. And each one of them said to me, you know which movie I'm looking forward to the most next year? And I'm thinking, okay, what movies are coming out next year? Well, it's got to be the big one. It'll be Batman vs Superman, it'll be Captain America, one of those movies. And they said, all with a bullet, Suicide Squad. I was like, wow, how do they even know about that? But then I realised, and we've been talking about it before, that movie, it's Joker, but it's Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is so much more well known than even I gave her credit for. My mother knows about Harley Quinn. She said to me, she didn't call it Suicide Squad, she just called it that movie with Harley Quinn. Which I think is what a lot of people are probably calling it right now. But that's fine. That still sells the movie. So honestly, I don't think there's a single person in the motion picture industry qualified to estimate the top on that movie right now. I think the release date really works, and I think if the movie works, then the sky's the limit for that one. And yeah, Margot Robbie she's already a movie star, she just don't know it yet. And that movie's going to be, that's not going to be the Will Smith show, it's going to be the Harley show. I feel it in my bones, and as long as it is, that movie's going to be great. It's
got the concept, which is unique. It's got the Quinn factor, and the most important one of all is everyone wants to see how Leto will do as the Joker. Yep. It's got those three things going for it, why it's going to be like a $300 million grossing movie.
Absolutely. All right, at this point we need to say farewell and adieu to Mr. Matt Thompson, sir. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great getting back on the last ride.
Thank you. Let's do this every time a Star Wars movie comes out. So pretty soon we'll do it like every couple of weeks.
Dude, I want to do an audio commentary on Jedi with you and Randall. I won't have to do anything. Just sit back and let you fight.
Let's make this happen. It'll be incredible.
Awesome. Well, very Merry Christmas to you, Matt. You take care.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys. Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Take it easy.
So, Star Trek Beyond. Let me just get this off my chest very, very quickly, because, well, I actually haven't kept a pulse on what people even think of it. But, honestly, I saw the trailer, and it's true that I saw the trailer after I'd said adieu to Jamie. I saw the trailer, and I was in hysterics from the start of it all the way to the end. I'd been most excited of all the trailers to see that one, because I hadn't seen a frame of the movie. We had no idea what the plot was. That was so exciting and refreshing to be in that kind of position. It used to be like that in the old days where we didn't know shit about a movie, and obviously now the landscape's so different with Star Wars now on the scene, so you can't even call the Star Trek movies the replacement Star Wars movies, because the real thing is actually here. So the question now is, how do you position Star Trek? How does it fit in? And I saw the trailer and I was like, that's alright. It's kind of alright. I didn't have a problem with it, because It's a proper It looks like a proper Star Trek plot to me. The Starship Enterprise are on the 5-year mission. They find a new, I presume new and uncharted planet. A hostile alien force from the planet overpowers them. They crash land on the planet. The crew's actually split up. There seems to be some kind of alien aggressor who's enslaved the rest of the population. Hopefully, there is some kind of philosophical or ideological conflict there that we can get our teeth into, because that is Star Trek at its best. And that's not the kind of thing that you could ever sell in a trailer. So don't say to me, oh, it's not there, it's all about extreme dirt biking. Maybe it is, but you don't know that. Okay, so let's just wait and see the movie.
Context would help, kids.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I will say that the only thing that trailer needed to top it off was Spock saying, remember, live long and prosper. To the extreme! But apart from that, I think that I'm excited. It's not... The most important thing we can say about it is that it doesn't look like a Star Wars movie. And I do know a lot of people have been saying it looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I'm scared about that too. If this is just a reaction to that film, at this point you say, okay, well, all Star Trek is a reactionary thing. And that does scare me. Because what were the worst Bond movies? The worst Bond movies were the ones which were completely reactionary to whatever was going on at cinema at the time. If that's what happens here, then yeah, I don't think it's going to bode well.
I will say though, Phil, Star Trek as it exists today exists because, and I mean today as in as a film franchise since its inception, was because Paramount saw Star Wars making a fortune and realized, oh wait, we have our own space property that we're not doing anything with, let's make a movie. When they dicked around with the idea for a decade, there were so many failed attempts at making a Star Trek movie.
Absolutely.
And the reason that they only made the motion picture was frankly because they saw Star Wars. Star Wars became the biggest movie of all time, and they wanted in on that fast. That's why it existed.
Just on that point, though, I think one of the reasons why 2, 4, and 6 are held in such high esteem is you could never call those movies reactionary. They're the trendsetters.
And they were the trendsetters because they tried to copy something and then it didn't work as well, and so they were forced to have to do their own thing.
Yes.
And find their own way. And in a way, one could argue that this is the movie that's finding its own way. Without people realizing it, only because Abrams is gone, his team is gone. They have to find an identity for themselves now, because it appears that, Bad Robot will not be involved with these movies after the third film contractually. It will be just a Paramount thing. Who will take over after that? We just don't know. Maybe Simon Pegg will stick around as a writer. I don't know. I take a lot of offense at Simon Pegg immediately trying to badmouth the trailer, because I think, you're one of the producers of the movie. You wrote the movie. You should really not say this shit out loud.
He badmouthed the trailer?
He said the trailer was not good.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
He said, I didn't like the trailer either. And I'm like, and everyone's applauding him for saying that. And I'm like, no, it's not worth applauding. No. It's unprofessional. You do not say this shit out loud. Please shut up. And I like Simon Pegg, but he said the shit before. Let's remember, he played along with the Khan masquerade for 3 years, and then got angry, and then got pissy when fans called them out on it, rightfully, because basically fans saying, well, you lied to us for 3 years. Why should we trust you? So I really take a lot of offense at how he's reacted to this trailer, actually, and it frankly suggests to me that there's issues internally, and some people have scoffed at me saying that, but why else would you say that? That sounds like someone who is trying to back away from something that's about to, like a bomb that's about to detonate. Like, you pulled the latch off it and it's about to go off, and now you're about to just like wave your hand and go, I don't know if it's about to go off, I don't know what happened. You played a big hand in this. I think the best thing to do would have not been said anything at all.
That annoys me. It more than annoys me, actually.
It does. It annoys me a lot too. And honestly, the problem this trailer had, this could have been the exact same trailer. You just get rid of the sabotage song. That was a fatal mistake. I think if you put in just Michael Giacchino's score or something else, not a pop song. The only reason people say Guardians of the Galaxy is because there's a pop song there. That's the only reason. Alright, Only reason. Take away that and put in like a thrilling score, the reaction would have been a lot better. I'm not saying there wouldn't have been the nitpicks and complaints, but that's where they made the mistake, was putting the sabotage in that song in.
I agree.
That's single-handedly, that shows you how a choice like that, like simple as music, can go a long way in helping or hurting you. And the music clearly, in a lot of ways, helped Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm not crazy about that movie, but it certainly had personality. And
it is a trendsetter at the moment.
In a way, but I mean, then again, the look of Guardians of the Galaxy takes a lot from Star Wars and Star Trek. So it kind of annoys me when people say, you're ripping off Guardians now. Well, Guardians kind of ripped off from Star Wars and Star Trek. I mean, we all rip off each other. Let's not play the game of, you're ripping off so-and-so. I don't like that shit. That really annoys me, actually. But what other trailers will we discuss, sir?
I'll let Spencer take this one if there's anything that's burning, he has a burning desire to talk about there, because I really don't have that much else to say. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the Civil War trailer. I have nothing I want to say publicly about Batman v Superman ever again until I've seen it, because it's just too much now. I just want to see the thing, and then I'll make up my mind about it. And I can't add anything to the conversation on that. And that's about it, really. Spencer?
I agree. I really liked the Civil War trailer. I feel like it did kind of everything that they needed to do when selling that movie. But honestly, when they hit the one base they needed to, which is what people have been, for some reason, clamoring for years, which is Iron Man versus Captain America, which is like that. That's why that closing shot of that trailer works so well. And like, my brother and I were talking about Civil War, and that he was like, imagine if when we were younger and you didn't have movie websites that could tell you all these things in advance, going to the theater and then seeing the trailer for Civil War, and then that part where Iron Man appears. You would have lost your fucking mind that Iron Man was going to be in the Captain America movie. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about that with some friends the other night, and they pointed out to me that when they went to see The Force Awakens on Thursday night, and the Civil War trailer played, and Iron Man opened that door, a girl behind them went, "Iron Man?" And I'm like, man, it must be great to live in like the kind of shell where you don't know a fucking thing about movies until you get into the theater.
I agree.
The only thing I would counter with that is this is now like the third movie where they're in a movie together, so it loses that. And frankly, the selling point of this movie is going to be like, and I guarantee there'll be like product placement lines with like Coke and McDonald's and stuff where they say choose, whose side are you want, choose your side. And it's well, I'm sorry, but we've now had like, the idea of marketing a movie based on heroes that fight each other in this particular franchise. It's been done a lot. The Avengers trailer, they fought each other, we saw it. Avengers 2, Iron Man fought Hulk, we saw it. Iron Man 2, we saw the stuff of him and War Machine fighting each other. So it's a good trailer, but there is the argument of we've seen this.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
we know they're going to end up making up. So it does. There is that part of me that goes, "We've seen this," and I think it's being overhyped actually a bit too much. Even though it clearly was no questions asked was the better trailer than Batman vs Superman. Not even in the same ballpark. Not even the same sport.
I was encouraged by what the Russos said, though, which was that they didn't talk about the fact that it was a fight. They talked about the debate, about the arguments that when you walk out of the theatre having seen this movie, if you are not debating with your friends about which one of them was in the right, then we haven't succeeded with the movie. And I like that. I like the idea that they're aiming for a movie we're actually going to have a conversation afterwards.
Hopefully, I'm afraid we're going to be bogging this down with too much, because this is a Captain America movie, not an Avengers movie, and you put a character like Iron Man in someone else's movie, it automatically becomes his movie.
See, I was worried about that too, but one of the reasons I really like the trailer is I breathed a huge sigh of relief after I'd seen it, because it was so Bucky-centric. I was so afraid that Bucky was going to get lost in the shuffle on this one, and he still may, of course. I haven't seen it, but certainly from the marketing perspective, they have not lost that angle, because I think what they've realised, which is really going to work in its favour, is that this is a sequel to Winter Soldier. which is an extremely popular movie that a lot of people saw, that a lot of people I think enjoyed who don't normally get into that kind of thing. I'd even be willing to bet, I don't think it's too much of a stretch, that maybe some people saw Winter Soldier and didn't see Avengers Age of Ultron. And so as far as you catering to them and marketing to them, and that lady that Spencer just talked about, maybe she's someone who's just treating this as a Captain America sequel. And then she sees Iron Man show up in it. You know, she cares about the fact, and certainly I care about the fact that, you know, Bucky, come home. I just want things to be okay for Bucky. I care about Bucky so much, you know. It's
just they're throwing a lot in this movie, and it feels even more dangerous than any of the other ones, where it's like there's too much going on, and now they're saying, you know, oh well, Spider-Man actually has a bigger role than we really admitted. Oh, he's the comic relief, but then so is Ant-Man. And you go, well, why are there two comic reliefs? Then it's as I think me and you were talking about this, Phil, in Dubai. It's like, oh, then it's you're literally turning these into Disney animated movies from the 90s, where everyone has a sidekick.
Well, that's a question to ask Spencer though, because we talked about this. But Spencer, I'm going to let you again do what you're best at. Be the judge, okay? And give the correct opinion on this particular point. Spider-Man in Civil War's marketing, do they treat him like Force Awakens treated Luke Skywalker and don't show him? Make him be the reason we get our asses in the seats at midnight or opening weekend so we can see the Spider-Man scenes? Or do they feel the need to blow it so that they can compete with the rest of the output that summer, and certainly with Batman vs Superman?
I think that they're going to have to show him in some way, even if it's just like that shot in the Force Awakens teaser of Luke's hand on R2-D2. Like, they don't say that's Luke, but we all know it's Luke. And I think they're going to have to do that with Spider-Man here, because, like, besides all of us that follow this shit all the time, like, no one knows about what's going on with Spider-Man in the general public. Like when I was having Thanksgiving dinner with my cousins a couple weeks ago, and Star Wars came up, and I mentioned, I was like, they're already working on the next two. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, another movie comes out next December, not like an episode, like it's a spinoff. And they were like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And it's like, if they don't know about those things with Star Wars, they don't know that Spider-Man is, quote unquote, back with Marvel, and that a new person is playing Spider-Man. So it's gonna hinge on the fact, like, how much is he in the movie? Because we know he's certainly in it, at least a good enough amount, based on rumors and what have you. But I feel like he's going to be in the trailers. At least they'll preserve it, I feel like, as long as they can. But then, like, you know, that final trailer that comes out, you know, 5-6 weeks before the actual movie, that'll probably have him in it.
Spencer, can I little segue here, because what you said is that's great. You're a very wise man. What you said about your cousins, though, it very much echoes what I think needs to be repeated out loud about fucking Deadpool.
Right.
Because people are so overblowing this by an insane margin, and I've seen the red band that everyone goes crazy about, and I'm like, well, it's still Ryan Reynolds, who is still boxed with poison.
Yeah, and it's tracking very, very poorly. I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but
no,
it's tracking very poorly.
But that's the thing. Everyone's saying this is going to be, oh man, it's going to be breakout. I'm like, I don't know what you're thinking, but this is literally, I mean, I even tweeted this to, of all people, Max Landis, and he retweeted it and favored it. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad someone else feels the same way I do, because I look at all the footage here and I go, this is literally what Kick-Ass did 5 years ago in its marketing.
Exactly.
And this, and you know what? Kick-Ass was a great movie, but it did not do well, because it did not suggest any reason for people to go see it. And this is doing the exact same thing. I don't know what you're telling me that makes this any different. And I'm not knocking the man personally. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I have never in my life seen an actor more aggressively sold to the public and more vehemently rejected than Ryan Reynolds. And they're still doing it, and I guess the logic is, well, the movie won't cost much, so we're not losing anything, and that's cool. I actually appreciate them taking the risk. I really do. But they're putting too much thought into this, and it's getting overhyped online. Big
yeah,
time.
You're not wrong. Cause
I feel like we're gonna look up and it's gonna do just 30 million, which is good for a movie like that, or 20 million, and everyone's gonna go, what happened? And I'm like, because they just sold it to you guys.
right.
Even right down to, why is Colossus played by some new guy? Like, even something simple as that might not be a big deal, but people might ask that. Like, why is it a new guy? We just literally saw the guy from the other X-Men movie. Like,
You know, it's funny you say it, because when I was in London the other day, I was in this big department store, and I was in the plasma TV section, and they had the Deadpool trailer, the G-rated trailer playing, and I saw these two little kids. They couldn't have been older than 10, and they were watching the trailer as it played on a loop, and I just wanted to. I was thinking to myself, do I tell them that they're not going to be able to see it? I mean, I'm sure they think it looks great, but am I going to be able to tell them that they can't actually go and see this R-rated movie? And that's literally the only. Well, I never really buy into that. So, what is hard R these days? What even qualifies? Look, I hope it's a kick-ass and that I like it. That's all I can say.
Me too. Absolutely, I'm the same way.
It's taken long enough to get made.
I remember when the first when the Comic-Con thing came out, and people were losing their fucking minds over it, and I was like, no, guys, like, how have we gotten to the point where people, like, have demanded their superhero movies be something more? You know, with the Marvel movies, it's like, well, it's a superhero movie, but it's also, you know, a space opera with Guardians, or it's a political kind of thriller with Winter Soldier. But with Deadpool, they were so keen to, like, be satisfied with the fact that this is a movie that, like, clearly looks like it should have been made in, like, 2003. Like, it has every makings of a superhero movie that studios were just making in the 2000s just because they could make superhero movies.
Ghost Rider.
Which is ironic you say that, because R.I.P.D. looked like it was made in 1998.
Oh.
I'm not kidding.
Wrong.
No, it didn't.
And so I don't get it. I'm sitting there going, and as weird as this is to say, you're going up against Zoolander 2, and I have a feeling that Paramount's like, we got nothing to be concerned with. Because I didn't even watch the first Zoolander. I remember when it came out, and it did okay, but I feel like they're going to beat their ass down. I might be wrong, but it's, you know, the rating goes a long way. A PG comedy against an R-rated movie that's being aimed at the internet crowds. I don't get it. I don't. You guys tell me otherwise. Like, I don't see it. I really don't.
I suppose what I'm worried about with Deadpool is the same thing that I worry about with any comedy, which is what I'm treating Deadpool as, which is that this will be a great movie to see with a packed house on opening night. If it's really funny, we'll all have a great laugh, we'll have a great time. I'll see it again in the comfort of my home room, and I won't laugh once. I suppose that's my concern.
I think the one other thing that should be considered is everyone's like, yeah, but Jamie, but they made the movie because the Comic-Con the test footage leak just got such a good reaction. No, they're making this movie so they can keep the X-Men option. That's why the movie's getting made, and it's cheap. They're like, we can spend even less money than we would on an X-Men movie and still retain the option. So, yeah, totally, let's make it. Why not?
And further confuse the continuity while they're doing it. Can we just say X-Men Origins doesn't exist at this point? I think that seems like the sensible thing to do.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that annoys me. It's like, we're recasting Gambit, but we have to keep Deadpool the same actor. Like, again, it's just the thing about, you know, you would be better off commercially getting someone else to play Deadpool at this point, because, you know, someone suggested Joel McHale for Deadpool, and I'm like, dude, that's actually a really cool choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would have worked.
Big time. Like, that would have really worked. I don't know why we have this hard-on for maintaining it's him, because Taylor Kitsch I thought was fine as Gambit. I had no issues with him. And I like Channing Tatum. In fact, I think Gambit is a waste of his time. And it's a waste of Doug Liman's time. But maybe the movie's going to be good. Who knows? I don't know. It's not coming out next... yeah, by the way, spoilers, kids. It's not coming out next October.
No, not at this point. No.
And you know what? It was. You know what?
Shit, no.
It was
probably
never
didn't get made at all.
It was never going to come out next October, because you're not going to put out 3 X-Men movies in 1 year. Not going to happen. Speaking of which, Phil and I saw the X-Men Apocalypse trailer. We feel very lonely when we heard the internet's reaction to that.
Yeah, a bit. I don't know what the What the fuck? No, actually, I do know what it is. Because this always happens to our buddy Brian. No matter how many times...
That's okay, then that means he'll prove me wrong again.
Well, I hope so. I mean, my concern is still there, which will always be there till I see it, which is this is one X-Men movie too many for him, that I feel at this point that he will be, and already has been, repeating things. This is a problem that I don't think many people had with Days of Future Past, but in that movie, I'd say with the Magneto scenes, and certainly with the Mystique scenes, that I was seeing him repeat things which he'd already done. And I was getting bored. And the Cerebro scene. And I was getting bored with those characters. And I feel like we're going to get even more of that in this movie, and that's going to bore me to tears. And certainly when I see cities being destroyed by big typhoons or whatever's going on in that trailer, we've seen plenty of that, so that doesn't interest me. There's nothing particularly visually interesting in the trailer except for the final shot. But, look, we're all going to fucking go, so why are we wasting time typing things? Well, I don't get it. I would understand the apathy for the franchise, except for the fact that, as far as I know, everyone really enjoyed the last movie. So that's why I'm kind of scratching my head about it.
It's got a lot of goodwill, and I think maybe I should go ahead and just call it. I feel like it's going to end up being the comic book movie that people like the most of the three big ones this year. I kind of wonder, because expectations are not on it as high as the other two, which is funny because you think after Days of Future Past the expectations will be through the roof, and they're kind of middling. Because I agree, Phil and I, in fact, I re-listened to our Days of Future Past show, which Spencer was on also, and the attitude, and I'm like one of the biggest Brian fans, and it's like, even I was like, Brian, do something else, dude, like produce it, develop the story, but back off, like let someone else direct it, because you've done what you need to do out of that movie, walk away now. And I don't know what else he has left to say except for I'm going to make even more money now, which, dude, you made a lot of money off those X-Men movies, and you made a lot of money off Superman and Jack the Giant Slayer. Like, I just don't get it.
We can circle back to this question after our set visit goes live. Or translation when we stop recording and Spencer will tell us. Yeah.
I'm zipping my lip right now.
We always do this, Jamie. We always do this to the listeners. We always dangle a carrot in front of them.
We can't, though. We can't do that. Like, we don't want to get people in trouble. I've had to shut my mouth on certain things. It's like, you have to do it.
Shutting our mouth is fine, but we tell the audience that we can't tell them something. That's what
everyone else. I've heard other people do that. I've heard it all the time. It's not a big deal.
I hate doing it. I hate treating you guys so poorly. But anyway, there it is.
I think building off of Jamie's point, I think Suicide Squad is going to be the one next year that ends up as being the favorite.
That's right. I'm sorry. I should have clarified. I forgot what Suicide Squad. I meant of between Apocalypse, Civil War, and Batman v Superman. I should have clarified.
Yeah.
You're right. It will be Suicide Squad. No questions asked.
I must say, I am absolutely fascinated. It's weird because I haven't even watched the trailer for it yet. I've been too busy, but I'm really, really, really interested to see Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. I don't know how it's going to go down, but I'm really interested to see it. I love Eddie Redmayne. I think he's going to be a good anchor for that. And I just love that world.
I love the world too. I think there's a weird... My predictions aren't always right. I don't pretend they are. Okay, I have this weird feeling that they want back Harry Potter nostalgia, right? They want to bring that character back into the pop culture lexosphere. But the problem is that he's never really left because J.K. Rowling won't shut the fuck up on Twitter. And I said with all due respect, but she's always coming out there saying new shit about, well, you know what happened to so and so after they got married, and like it becomes breaking news. And in order to love something again, we have to let it go away for a while. One of the reasons why Star Wars people forget Star Wars had a second wind, that our generation, me, Phil, Spence, we were not born when these movies came out. We caught them on home video and watched them thousands of times or hundreds of times, and knew them religiously, loved them religiously. But Star Wars got away from people for a while, and it started around the time of Clerks. Actually, I think Clerks, that's its biggest influence, is the fact that it brought back Star Wars nostalgia. It brought it back into pop culture in a way that it was like, oh yeah, Star Wars. I forgot about. I love Star Wars, and then people started talking about it for 5 years until the prequels. You have to be able to get away from it, and Harry Potter hasn't gotten away from it. It hasn't been long enough. And I feel like and they clearly want you to feel that way. And it's a teaser, it's a tease, so it did its job, but it's like, I kind of don't think it's going to be as big as people think. I think we're going to look up and go, ooh, that didn't really do as well as we thought. And I could be completely wrong. I might blow it and a year go, boy, I was an idiot, but I don't know, man.
I only feel like
it's got to go away. It's got to go away, and it hasn't yet.
But see, I think that's that's all a matter of individual perspective. Because to bring it full circle, for me, Star Wars did go away. Once I'd seen Revenge of the Sith, and I'd been really excited about it, and I enjoyed the movie, and it was like, there it is. And then obviously, I never saw the Clone Wars TV show or the movie that came out in 2008, and and all that stuff, and I was just like, okay, it's not mine anymore. It's for the kids. Let them have it. And there it is, you see. And I still remember so fondly. It was literally 3 years and 1 month ago that myself and Lou and Justin did our show about Disney pitching the rights. Up until that moment, Star Wars had been away from my consciousness for a good couple of years. Hadn't thought about it at all. And this last 3 years, okay, I haven't been thinking about it and counting down the days, except for this last couple of months when they really started ramping up the marketing. But it's had the impact that it's had on me because it had been away, and because with the marketing, I suddenly realised why I loved Star Wars. I think everybody did. And then the movie actually reminded me all the more about why I love Star Wars, and now I'm actively looking forward to its future. And it's going to be... I don't feel as... maybe doom-laden as Jamie does about the milking of it and the Marvelization of what they're doing with it. I feel like if the movies are good, then that's fine. If they're not, and obviously if they're making this many, statistically, so not all of them are going to be great, but if they're all different, and I suppose that's all I can ask. Even if they don't work, if at least it's a different kind of movie, then I can say, well, they tried something and it didn't work, But who the heck knows, right? But I'm certainly excited. I'm certainly excited about it. And what is true, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, this is the only sad thing, and this is why, folks, this is why I feel like this is a good time for us to end, because I can't think of an experience that we are going to have again with Star Wars than the anticipation we've had for this one. Because now Star Wars isn't going anywhere, ever, again. I'm not going to have that dormant period where it's away. It's going to be full on Star Wars every 6 months now. In fact, if you roll in all the TV stuff like Rebels, if you watch that, and all of the merchandising, the theme park stuff, every news story that's going to be overanalyzed, it's literally going to be with us every month now. If you follow it, it's not going to be away, and that way it's not going to feel like I'm going to see him, but it's going to be like seeing, it's going to be like seeing a Marvel movie. I guess you get excited about it, and if you've heard it's good, then you're really excited to walk into that lobby and then experience it. But as far as the anticipation goes, it's different now. I feel like I've had. This sounds terribly depressing because I know it's not true, but I feel like I've had the last great movie event of that kind in my life, which was The Force Awakens. I feel like everything from this point is hopefully going to be exciting to look forward to, but not the same. Like, I saw people yesterday lining up outside a movie theatre. I've never seen that. I haven't seen that in such a long time that we actually we had our tickets booked and we had our seats allocated, but we still had to line up to actually get into the theatre, and we had to line up for a long time, like 45 minutes or something. It's just something that just doesn't happen these days. And to see, sold out on the boards and stuff, and, there was actually even... God, it reminded me, seeing, the archive footage of when people lined up for The Exorcist. Like, there was a security guard, and he actually said, okay, 2 lines. People who've got their tickets, line up here. People who need their tickets, you line up here. And I was like, oh my God, I've never had this. This is awesome. I love that kind of experience, and I just feel like maybe we won't get it again. I don't know if I'm being too
I
delayed
think-
about that.
I think I don't know if I made this on air, but I feel like because of this money and the friendly rivalry that they've had with each other, I feel like this becomes the time when Steven Spielberg says, "I think it's time for an ET sequel." I really do.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm a huge Spielberg fan. I respect the shit out of that man. He's the reason why we're all here. Him and Lucas, those are the two guys. We are here because of those two guys. No questions asked. I kind of wonder if he says, you know what, maybe it's time. I would hope he doesn't, and I think better of him that he hasn't gone back to that, because he hasn't needed to. But I kind of wonder, like, what would be the movie that would be that, Phil? And it would be something of that level. Or, you know, and I don't even laugh when I say this, but Back to the Future 4.
Back to the Future 4, Jaws Returns, directed by Spielberg, obviously.
Not Jaws Returns, but like something like Back to the Future 4, a Goonies sequel.
A Ghostbusters.
We're getting that, though.
Exactly.
Or, you know, and this could seriously happen, don't doubt this, and Phil and I know the exact reference we're about to make here when I drop the movie, how this would work is a fourth Dark Knight movie. It could happen.
Yep.
Don't think it won't. I mean, all we have to do is go back to, Phil, you know exactly what I'm going to say. Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
They did it. They said, we're just, and, you know, they're technically doing it with the Bourne movies. They're basically doing a fifth movie that's going to ignore the fourth one. Or at least not acknowledge it, but ignore it. But yeah, it's weird. Like, what else is there? That's what's looking forward to, is someone's going to come up with a movie. You know, the truth is that you know, the next biggest movie of all time, no one really saw Avatar being that movie. No one saw Titanic being that movie. No one saw E.T. being that movie, or Star Wars being that movie. And I feel like, yeah, the next movie that becomes the all-time greatest grossing movie will be something that we don't see coming. It's the perfect moment. It just comes out of nowhere. That's what's fun. I didn't like Avatar, but it was fun to have a movie that took the record, that came out of nowhere. Because no matter what people say, nobody thought Avatar was going to do that business at all.
I'll drink to that. I'll drink to the idea of it being a surprise. That it will be something, because it's true. Because as the man Mr. Goldman said, nobody knows anything. So
That's
I will
correct.
drink to that. I'll drink to that. I can't think of anything else that could do it. I mean, no, can't think of a single thing, obviously.
It will have to be some kind of sequel. Some kind of years later sequel.
I feel like if honestly, I mean, I don't even talking about the thought of it drains me, but if there was an Indy 5, I'd feel like it's, you know, that's, I don't know many people who'd be excited. I really don't.
They would be excited because people liked Indy 4, frankly, and there'd be some goodwill from Harrison Ford coming off of Star Wars. Because you know what, Indy 4, people did. I mean, there's certainly the hatred online. I liked it okay personally, but Ford's awesome in it. Like he loves Indiana Jones. Like this is a common fact. He loves that character. He loved those movies. So even if he didn't like 4, no one complained about Ford in the movie. Everyone's like, oh, he's into it. So I feel like you would definitely have Ford back into it. And Spielberg would be into it. And you know what? It would be directly a better movie, because they would say, well, we really feel the need to make a better... We don't want to end on 4. We want to end on 5. So it's going to automatically be a better movie.
Well, the only other thing I can think of, to be honest with you, of course, is I don't want them to make it. I really don't, but there is always Frozen 2.
Oh, that's going to... Well, that won't.
Dude, did you see Frozen Fever?
Was that not good? I didn't watch it. I'm assuming it was terrible.
It actively terrified me to think, okay, this is how bad a sequel could be, because it was so awful. It was so punny. It was so referential to its success, and it's cocky about what a phenomenon it had been. And it's so cynical. It just made me sick. It was only a short film, but it made me actively sick.
This is why I really feel happy. You wish that there were more filmmakers and actors who could have control of the property, because then they would have a good sense of saying, we don't need to do another one. When you say that, I thought about Forrest Gump. That if that movie had been made today, which it wouldn't be made anyway, but if it did and it was the same for success, they would have made Gump and Company. And, you know, but Zemeckis is a good filmmaker and is a smart man. and so was Tom Hanks. And they said, you know what, we're not going to do it. They considered it. They did some drafts. They dibbled into it, and they realized, you know what, we can't do it. We really can't do it. Or you know what, Phil? That would be another sequel that people would come back to in droves, is the Roger Rabbit sequel.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the big one, actually. More than any others, besides probably the Batman 4, hypothetical, or Back to the Future, I really think would probably be Roger Rabbit that would get people really in. Where there's not one generation who doesn't watch that movie. Maybe I'm overestimating. Maybe Roger Rabbit isn't in the public as much, like with young kids, as it is. I don't have children, and my nieces and nephew are growing up, so don't always know what they want. Although I've certainly tried to put some shit in their direction. I've maintained that when my nephew turns 13, I will slip him a copy of the Kentucky Fried Movie to give you. I think that's the perfect age to show that movie. So maybe that's just me. I never say never, dude. We live in a world with Star Wars sequels now.
Yeah. And I always thought, I personally always thought that Star Wars was gonna, I talked about this 3 years ago when they first made the announcement. I thought Star Wars movies would happen again, but I thought it would be a reboot, and I thought it would be a long time away still. Before that ever happened. Long after Mr. Lucas had passed away and there was some loophole that allowed that to happen. But the fact that this has happened, it's been the perfect time for it, certainly. And it is true that what's just been proved now as we speak is that Star Wars doesn't need to come out in May. You can release it anytime you like. It'll make a dumb truckload of money.
I really kind of wonder if they're going to make December Star Wars month from here on.
Yeah.
Now, I think that would be the smart.
Yeah.
Because it's a context that sort of loses to people, is that every Star Wars movie up until it came out in May and dominated, except for Episode 2, which was still a huge hit. But summer's a different landscape now. In fact, not only is it summer, but every studio wants every weekend to be summer. It's different. I think Disney would be smart to stick with Christmas. And I know they're saying we're going to have Episode 8 by May of 2017. I think that's a foolish mistake, and I don't believe it, because they're also putting Guardians of the Galaxy that summer, and you're basically saying we're releasing 2 space operas in one summer. That's foolish.
Same month. And Guardians 2 is going to be huge.
You know,
me and Spencer both believe that. I don't know about you, but Guardians 2, that's a big movie.
One of those movies will move, and I still think you know, I mean, my buddy, our friend Matt, was saying that I'm crazy because they want to really mark on the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, and I think they do. But I think they clearly have the answer in Rogue One.
Yes, I agree.
You move it back to May. Darth Vader's in it. It's set right before Star Wars anyway, and there it would be the perfect synergy of celebrating the 40th anniversary with a new movie that has Darth Vader as the villain again. It's right there. And then you give the filmmakers of the official trilogy more time to finish it. And I don't like the fact they're doing that Episode 8 is 2 years from now. I actually hate that. Or a year and a half from now. I actually really hate that. Because it's not like Harry Potter where there was the source material and it came about making sure you properly adapted it. You're making it up as you go along. And a lot of times these sequels, they don't turn in as well because they say, well, we had a release date right in front of us and we had to basically make the date. So I would hope that they wait every 3 years, actually.
I think it's just
they're not gonna, so it doesn't even matter.
It's the movie landscape we're used to. I mean, nobody likes waiting about for things anymore. nobody can stand it. So we'll make sure we know.
The thing you can point to for why that happening is Netflix. Like the binging of television is now moving over to film by. You know, the wait, an 18-month wait for Episode 8 will be, in the general public, is a good thing.
It goes deeper than that. It's like, I mean, I remember the days where you had to wait like a couple of years to get Star Wars on video, and now you'll barely have to wait 3 months to get The Force Awakens. Right. Oh, I could be wrong about that. They could make us wait, but I would be unbelievably shocked.
Last time they did that was Phantom Menace. They people wait a year for the home video, and it did amazing on home video.
I remember that. I remember when the Lord of the Rings. I remember the Two Towers specifically. That DVD didn't come out till August. It was agony waiting for that puppy to come out because I'd only seen it once. theatrically. I was like, man, I really want to see that movie again. I had to wait. Yeah, we had to wait till August for it to actually come out. The theatrical cut, mind you. I'm not talking about the extended version. That's the last time I can remember really waiting for something on home media. We don't live in that world anymore.
I still rather have physical media. So
Me
that's
too.
just me.
I'm not going to
But
change.
physical media, DVD, Blu-ray, physical copies of movies is the new vinyl. Like there's still going to be an industry for it, so don't think that it'll go away. It's not going to go away, but the idea of special features and stuff will go away.
No.
It already has. That's fucking upsetting.
I think it's due for a comeback though. I think it'll eventually come back. But in fact, it's a good thing.
I just mean in regard to like special features. Like they're fucking gone.
Oh man, there's still a few champions. I mean, they did those. I mean, I don't particularly love the movies, but I still like the fact that at least The Hobbit repeated the thing that the Lord of the Rings did. I appreciate that very much. Shout Factory does their thing. It's there's movies that no one would even ask special features for, but they do them anyway. It's very much appreciated. And who the hell knows, man? I mean, they got I would obviously you could be really cynical about this, but who the hell knows? Maybe, just maybe, they will put as much effort into the DVD for The Force Awakens as was done for the prequel movies, which were just beautifully done. I still have those DVDs because they're so beautifully made.
They might, because it's going to sell a shit ton on home video. Like that. I mean, it depends on the movie. Like, remember, Avatar came out on home video and sold a shit ton, even though by that point, home video was pretty limping along, even at that point. So it depends on the movie that people want a physical copy of. So yeah, it'll sell great.
See, what you're listening to, folks, is the sound of grumpy old men who are just getting it all out there. Our last final thoughts before we bid you adieu. So as far as the future is concerned, folks, all I can say is that I'm not going to make any more promises. I literally can't do it, folks, because my life has moved on. Like I just mentioned, I've been overseas working. The plan, as far as I'm hoping, is that I get to do that again next year, and probably very soon as well. So, I couldn't promise that we'll be back for a box office show because I don't know if I'm going to be in the country. Can't promise we'll be back for an X-Men Apocalypse show because I don't know if we'll be in the country. I can't promise we'll be back for anything because I just don't know what's going to happen. So whether it does or it doesn't, obviously if we can, that would be lovely. We love doing this for you guys. I love spending time with these people. But if we don't, then obviously all I can say once again is thank you so much for your continued support. The very fact that you'll be listening to this show means that you've been waiting for us to do it, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much for that. And don't be as cynical as us, I mean, there's still great things out there to enjoy, and hopefully you will. And if every Star Wars movie is as good as The Force Awakens, then I don't think we've got anything to worry about, even if it is a bit of a sausage machine. And that's all I can say, really. Thank you so much for sticking with us for Movie Moan 2015. Been an interesting year. I've enjoyed doing the show.
Yeah.
It's a good fun, and that's all it ever is. I mean, there's no need to treat it so fucking seriously. That's another
people
thing.
Do.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's like that's. I'm not talking about the fan community here. I'm talking about the people who work in this industry.
Yeah, it's turned into an industry all by itself, and after so long, the enthusiasm is gone. I don't see how some of these people can even fake the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, I almost admire them for that.
I could see it if, look, I mean, I still listen to some podcasts. I could see it if you have a group of collaborators who every week you get to speak with and you have a natural chemistry and you just get to talk about movies. I totally get that. But if all you're doing is sitting in the Twitter sphere and just typing cynical thoughts day after day as essentially same movie news stories repeat themselves, then I don't know what to do.
In the same, that's one of the reasons I feel I'm tired of this.
Yes.
Same reactions. I mean, case in point is Apocalypse. Like, people bitched about the look of Apocalypse literally after making the exact same complaints about Quicksilver. Did you not just learn? Like, there's so many countless examples. People don't want to change. People don't change because they don't want to change. It's what it is.
I think there's only a couple of points of wisdom I want to impart as I leave, folks, that hopefully we will take to heed, because that's the only thing that depresses me, is when we don't learn from history, which we don't, so many, many times. But hopefully, if I say this, a couple of people will hear my voice, and maybe, just maybe, they'll remember what Uncle Phil said the next time that this happens. So a couple of things. Number one, if you see a trailer, don't use the phrase, "I feel like I've seen the whole movie." Please don't say that. If you see the movie and then after that say that the trailer blew the whole movie, fine. But don't ever think that you've seen the whole movie just because of a trailer. Don't do that, please, folks.
Can I add one to that, Phil?
Yes.
Don't say, in 2 minutes they did more than so and so did in a whole movie.
We hear that one a lot. Yes. That's...
Don't ever say that, ever.
The next one I want to impart is, the next time someone is cast as Bond, Batman, the Joker, or any other iconic character, please do not... Well, please just don't. Whatever you're thinking, just don't. Literally, all we need to say is, "Oh, that's an interesting choice." That's all we need to say. What else can we say until said person has given us a chance to prove themselves? It's not always... We don't need to have an opinion right now until we've seen them do their stuff, because... And if we do think that, because obviously we all have instinct that we can't control, and we all have gut feelings that sometimes mean we just immediately express what we're thinking. I get that totally. But just when you're doing it, just remember the last time this happened. Just go back to history. That's all I ask about that. And just the third thing is that we can't have it both ways. We can't complain about retreads and sequels and remakes to certain things that we're not particularly enthused about right now, and at the same time be counting down the days to Marvel Infinity War or Star Wars Episode 27 or whatever it might be. We can't have it both ways. This is the world we're living in. If there's something that you don't like, just remember there's about 100 people that do. And we have no right to piss on their parade. Unless it's Pirates of the Caribbean. I will make an exception for that. Apart from that... that's better. Or Alice Through the Looking Glass, because no one asked for that. Apart from that, though... No, see, I just did it then! I just fucking did it then, because I bet you there's 100 people who love Alice in Wonderland. I hope never to meet those...
There were, Phil. They were in 2010, and then 5 years passed. When 3D craze died down, the memory of that movie died down, and Johnny Depp's last gasp of air and his box office cred was then too. So you're right to say that, actually.
It is a weird gap, isn't it? It is.
They waited too long. Well, I mean, Neighbors 2 is coming out, and that will be a sequel that will not do as well, because as much as people love Neighbors, they did not ask for a sequel, and they will tell you, I didn't ask for another one.
Right, well, that's all our words of wisdom. I think there's much to add. Spencer, you're worldly and wise. Have you got any you want to throw in here?
You know, people always tell you when you're a kid and you're trying to figure out what you want to do in the world to get out of your comfort zone. But I feel like that also can apply to the sort of media you consume as well, because you know, most of my job entails writing about big blockbuster movies and mostly things that come out in the summer. But at the end of the year, I always find that maybe one or two of those I really liked, and then all my other favorite movies have been like really quieter movies, or movies that, you know, premiered at like Sundance, or you know, things that I don't get to write about. Because
real movies.
Because there's not... Well, I don't like to say that either, but... I feel like, yeah, get out of your comfort zone when it comes to seeing movies, because sure, we all like to see these popcorn movies from the summer, but like one of my favorite movies last year was Whiplash, and that's not a movie that you're ever going to see talked about on something like a comment board on a movie website. So that's what I have to say.
And I agree. Absolutely. Alright, folks. Well, you've heard enough about us lecturing you. Sorry about that, but that's our Christmas present for you. If we see you, we'll see you when we see you. But if we don't, thanks again. You have a wonderful Christmas. Have a wonderful New Year. Have a wonderful many New Years. As I said and teased at the start of the show, don't worry about us. We're fine. I'm certainly in a really wonderful place with my life right now, career-wise. Things are going really, really well for me. And Jamie, I can personally attest, having witnessed it myself, that Jamie has a happy ending. And he's got the whole rest of his life ahead of him. That's the fun part. But apart from that, if I could literally close the book there and back again, a Jamie story, right now, then I could say that this is the perfect point to end it. Jamie has got himself a happy ending, and he's earned it. Don't you think he's earned it? I think he's earned it. So, thank you very much, folks. Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah.
It was a good year. I forgot to say, but obviously we've done a whole year of shows together, separate from the rest of it, and it's been wonderful. It really has.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that one.
Me
Had
too.
a lot of fun with it.
Me too. And best of luck for the future. Obviously, I'm sure the soapbox article's going to still continue.
I haven't done one in a long time, but that was because I kind of got derailed, and then eventually I was like, I think I've run out of opinions on things.
Right now, I'm sure it'll come back. I'll feed you ideas now and then, or I'll be a ghostwriter for you. The set visits will continue, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. All right, Jamie, sir.
Sure.
Good to know you.
Well, you say that, we still keep in contact a
Yes,
lot,
we do.
actually, so yeah, we still talk to each other quite a bit. So yeah, that won't be an issue.
No. Oh, feel weird again. We really need to stop doing. See, that's the thing, folks. It's like, I feel like when we ended the podcast last year, that was like the ending, and then when we came back, people were like, "Can you believe they're doing another one? Can't believe it." That felt like the 20 years later sequel. But
It was like when Doug Walker decided to Nostalgia Critic after making a big to do about ending it.
Oh, that's made me feel really shitty now.
No, I'm just saying. No. He seems like a nice guy. I'm just saying. That was my point being. That was 5 years ago.
Don't believe anything I ever tell you, folks. We'll be back next week. I fucking know we will. Something crazy will happen. No, I doubt we will. But yeah, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for your time. Peace out for now. The balcony is closed.